Hey kids, do you like wrestling? Well, we like wrestling too. We are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Myself and Chris Novembrino kind of doing a lazy river of wrestling criticism, going through the news and whatever happened in stateside television wrestling. And also, you know what? Sometimes we just like to watch old stuff and talk about that too. Love for you to give us a listen. If you haven't already, we are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
I mean, I don't know how many times I have to prove my perfectly honed instincts. I mean, it's just time after time, I'm so right.
And Rich Crage.
It's going to sound really gatekeepy, but if this is your match of the year, you need to watch more wrestling. I mean, seriously, when it was over, I was like, the people that think this is like one of the... Like, I got some wrestling to show these people. And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you?
How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing well.
Great.
Grand. Just dandy. Just fine and dandy. Yeah, I'm we've talked about this before because there's been past times on the show where over the summer months or whatever, I have to have my window open and there's always listeners complaining about crickets and noises. And I think you on the Thursday Dynamite reviews, people sometimes get mad at your birds because you got birds in the background and stuff. I'm waiting for, we're supposed to get the cicada invasion coming very soon. Any day now, any day now, the invasion of the 17-year brood cicadas is going to come to me here in Illinois, and I'm very ready to see what it's like on the audio with a bunch of cicadas in the background. Or they don't come. I have no idea. They were supposed to come already, and they haven't, so we'll see what ends up happening. But I'm nervous every time I wake up that that's going to come, and then it's just going to be absolute horrible audio for like 2-3 weeks as these fuckers just scream in the background for hours on end. So, but not yet.
Nobody,
we're good.
Nobody comes here for audio quality.
It's true. that is true. Yeah, it does seem like if we have any sort of noises, people are very quick to pick up on any noises. Or I goes, is there a bug in Rich's room or something? It's like, well, I'm near a window. Sometimes there's crickets, or you have landscapers every so often. You definitely have the bird. I've noticed the birds. You got a lot of birds here on the Thursday Dynamite reviews. I don't know, is that you got a sparrow family? What kind of birds are you? I know you're not a birder. You don't fancy yourself a birder, but what kind of birds are we looking at in the Lanza?
You don't
backyard?
Fancy yourself a birder.
No, I don't fancy a birder.
No,
I am quite the birder. Indeed, I've become that my. That's how I know I'm officially old. I don't know. One day I woke up and I was just interested in birds. I don't know. It's around the same time that my niece hurt all the time. It's just like it all came. One day you wake up, your back hurts when you wake up. You can't walk because your ankles are sore when you wake up. And you look out in your backyard and you're like, huh, is that a finch? And I don't know why. I don't know how it happened. It just one day I woke up and I was like, is that a finch? And now I care about birds. I can't explain it.
You're going to start drinking Senka?
I don't know what
is that what's next? You're gonna go to McDonald's and all of a sudden your go-to order is gonna become the Filet-O-Fish.
The Filet-O-Fish, yeah, that's a classic. Yeah, that's a classic old person move.
Yep, that's what's coming. So you're too young for this, by the way.
I know. I'm old at heart.
You're
but
too
yeah.
young for body aches and gardening and fucking birds. You're too young for this shit. It's you should still be taking the nurse out to the club.
The club? How late?
Yeah,
How late do I have to be at the club for? I'll take her to the club as long as we're looking at the clock around 9:15. I want to be able to,
It's not even open yet.
That's a problem. Yeah, I'm not going to that club. Screw that club.
You still be pre-gaming at 9:15.
Oh, yeah.
You still be pre-gaming at 9:15. The club. If you were going to take the nurse to the club.
The club. I don't know if we have the club anymore.
A specific club that you'd be going to?
I really don't. Anymore, we don't. We used to have a lot around here. People in the Chicagoland area will know a couple of these. We used to have the Bamboo Room That was exactly what you would think the Bamboo Room was. It was in an outlot of a mall, but it had like, Polynesian themed. But I'm trying to think of whatever term, like what would the term be in the 90s? It'd be Polynesian themed, right? Like a bad tiki bar would be called like Polynesian themed or whatever the outdated term that they do. Yeah, that was the Bamboo Room. That used to be around. We also had an under 21, very creepy. By the way, went there only one time. Zero Gravity. Zero Gravity was an under 21 club for children. It was like for 16 to 21 year olds. It was also attached to a 21 and over club. And as you can probably
no problems
assume,
could be had there.
Yeah, no problems could be had with 21 over club being attached to a 21 under club with doors right next to each other. And that was an odd. Yeah, the Vitamin J knows. He's I guess he's from the Chicagoland area and says, I remember the Zero Gravity. Yeah. A lot of foam parties at Zero Gravity. I went one time and I was like, nah.
Foam parties.
I'm good. I think I'm good on this. So the club was never my vibe, the club. But yeah, if I were to take the nurse to the club, I'm not even sure. I don't know what the club would be anymore.
What are they playing in the club these days? A little Gloria Estefan and the Miami Sound Machine. What are they playing?
Yeah. Real McCoy. Probably a lot of Real McCoy blaring through the speakers.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. The last time I went to the club, the Real McCoy was playing. I don't know what modern, probably just some EDM bullshit that I don't really want to listen to,
Some kind of house music. Is that what they call it?
Well, the term house
30 years ago. Maybe?
Well, it got kind of bastardized because there is a version of house that was out. We need Rich Latta. We got to get Rich Latta online here quickly before we screw ourselves here with this talk here. There was one style of what house music was, and then somewhere along the line, house music just became the term for like generic electronic music, and I don't love that because house music is not just generic electronic music, especially Chicago house. But anyway,
no one needs to hear about city-specific house music. Real McCoy did all of those fucking songs from 20
everyone. Are you looking at the Real McCoy discography right now?
I don't have to look.
You know.
I could sing them for you. People probably are like, "What's that?" You're like, "No, 15 of their songs.
Yes.
I guarantee it." There's So are they still around or did they age out?
I am not sure if the Real McCoy is still hanging out and still making music these days. Not sure. No, they Okay. Let's see. They are latest release. I'm looking on Spotify here. These are remixes. I don't know if I'm counting remixes.
30 years ago was their heyday.
For sure.
They might be pushing 60. These people.
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm not confident that they're still around. Well,
their songs are still around.
They released a song or I don't actually know what the Real McCoy is. I'm not sure if it's a guy, if it's 10 people, if it's a guy and a girl. I have no idea.
The guy and the broads, right?
Well, it's only if you look up Real McCoy, it only shows the guy.
Oh,
so I'm not sure.
I thought it was a guy and a bunch of girls.
I thought so too, but it's just this guy on all the images. So I don't know if he kind of shoved them out or whatever. He released a song in 2020 called quote "People Are Still Having Sex." That was the name of it. And if you go on Spotify, "People Are Still Having Sex" (parentheses radio), and then "People Are Still Having Sex" (instrumental). June 29th, 2020.
I would imagine that song would require a radio edit based on the title.
I would assume,
might be talking about blowies and fucking.
But there's not a normal. It's only a radio and an instrumental. It says radio and instrumental, but there's not a normal. The Mad Dog stuff in the note of chat room says Wikipedia says 4 current members, 11 past members of Real McCoy.
Yeah, there's a bunch of women in it. I'm telling you. It was the guy.
A bunch of herons. He's got a bunch of herons. Like what?
Yeah, it's like Tony Orlando and Dawn. There was many people were Dawn.
Right, Peaches and Herb. Peaches and Herb. Lots of peaches.
Right.
Lots of peaches.
Exactly.
One herb, many peaches.
That's it. That's Real McCoy. Same deal.
So many peaches. So many peaches. I think he was up to like 11 at one point of peaches.
Yeah.
But always Herb. Yeah, there was. That's the dance music I remember because like my.
You're right. It's all the EDM stuff.
Right, and I don't know any of that stuff, and I don't really want to hear it. It's terrible.
It's all made by like 19-year-old DJs who overdose on pain pills on a tour bus. That's, like, who's the one that died? The Swedish guy or something? He made all those songs.
Avicii, I believe. Is
Was
that the
that
guy
the
you're
guy?
talking? Yeah. They're all. I feel like they're all from like Scandinavian countries, or
Yeah,
just some
isn't that
Eastern,
weird?
or just some Eastern Bloc country that you're like, is that a country? Is that really a country? And you look it up, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
You're like, there's
much,
no
yeah.
way that's all right. Well, yeah, all right, yeah, that's a country, I guess. So.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Am I still on the air?
You're still on the air. I hear you. We're live, pal.
Okay, great. Yeah, well, my laptop just zapped out, so I'm flying blind here on today's edition. But look, I'm a pro. I can handle this. But I'm just concerned of whether I'm still on or not.
I hear you. I believe the people still hear you. I think we're still good.
Okay.
But yeah, so you got no screen? You're just blank screening it?
I got nothing. I thought I lost all power, but apparently you can hear me and I'm still on the air, so I'm
So
not
what are we
going to
do about that? What are we going to do about that? You got no screen?
I got no screen, but who cares? You can hear me, right?
I can hear you, yeah.
Then I'm not touching nothing. Why fuck with it?
You got notes? You need notes, or you got them all on the
I
paper?
don't need notes. Are you kidding me?
One take lands over here. You're good. I'm good.
What do you think you're dealing with here? You think I normally have notes?
I guess I thought you had notes sometimes.
Come on, man. It's all up here.
Oh wow. All right. Yeah. That's
Now,
why
listen,
that's why you're a pro.
I'm not going to tell you I don't occasionally throw open a cage match page, but
I got you.
I got my phone here, right? Oh, 2%. Well, that's not going to work, but fuck it. Let's go. We'll do it live.
We'll do it fucking live. Yeah, we got a
We're
lot.
literally doing it live.
We are literally doing it live here on Flagship Patreon.com. Thank you guys on the $10 tier for jumping on in, listening to the live show. Of course, if you want to do this every single week, you can do so over at flagshippatreon.com. Just jump into that $10 tier. You get all of our live shows, instant reaction live, flagship lives, written content, all that other stuff available on the $10 tier. So yeah, you can be listening to this live, talking with the No Dopes up in the No Dopes chat room. So yeah, always a lively event here every Thursday on Flagship Live. But yeah, a lot going on this week we want to talk about. We have AEW doing some sort of residency-ish type thing in Arlington, Texas as part of their Path to All In tour. We're going to talk about that. We're going to review New Japan Pro Wrestling's Resurgence, catch you up on Best of the Super Juniors, and talk about the upcoming Dominion card coming up in June. All Japan's Champion Carnival finished up. We'll talk about the final night, including the Champion Carnival final between Jun Saito and Kento Miyahara. CyberFight. They have a new president, and one of his main goals is to, quote, strengthen the relationship with WWE. We're going to talk about why that, I don't know what that means for Noah, DDT, Tokyo Joshi Pro, Marigold, and the Japanese wrestling scene in full. Lots of news on the TV rights front. We have the NBA potentially moving to NBC, leaving Warner Brothers Discovery, what that would mean for AEW. The NWA has a third TV deal, I guess, sort of. And the CW confirmed that NXT is staying on Tuesday night. So we're going to talk about all that sort of stuff and a bunch of other things going on in the world of TV rights, including a bunch of bundling going on with streaming services, a whole lot of stuff. That'll be kind of a big picture discussion about streaming in general, TV in general, and then also, obviously professional wrestling. So we'll get to that in a moment. As we've been doing on the show over the last several months, keeping you up to date on the latest with the Janel Grant lawsuit against WWE, John Laurinaitis, and Vince McMahon. We know that John Laurinaitis flipped. He is on Vince McMahon's side regarding seeking arbitration. Vince McMahon's side also now said that they, of course, which we all assume was going to happen on the Vince McMahon side, they also are seeking arbitration. And now WWE has responded to the lawsuit as well, and they support Vince McMahon's motion for the case to be adjudicated in arbitration. They said, quote, WWE disputes Grant's allegations, but as a threshold matter, this dispute cannot be heard in court because Grant agreed to arbitrate her claims. WWE therefore moves to compel this action to arbitration. Simply put, Grant has no claims actionable in this court because the separation and non-disclosure agreement she signed with WWE and McMahon, the monetary benefit of which she concededly accepted and retained, contains an arbitration provision that I'm lost my...
Okay, I got your.
My screen closed out. What's going on here?
That's crazy. But in layman's terms, what WWE is saying in their defense here is that Janel Grant agreed to this NDA, accepted funds from the NDA, and as per the terms of the NDA, any sort of dispute goes automatically to arbitration.
Right.
The problem here, and this is what's going to have to be settled, is Grant's side is claiming McMahon broke the NDA because he stopped paying her.
Right.
So now, so from their point of view, because McMahon did not live up to the terms of the NDA was broken, and now this is what the crux of all of this is, and why they're suing everybody. So, again, we always preface this by neither one of us are lawyers. It would sound to me like it would come down to whether a judge or an arbitrator would decide that it was in fact McMahon who broke the NDA and then therefore threw out all the terms of the NDA. But that's what WWE is saying with that statement that Rich just made. By the terms of the NDA, this has to go to an arbitrator and not to court.
Right.
But the Grant side is saying the terms of the NDA are out the window because Vince stopped paying. So and that's where we are. The Vince side also this week, as Rich frantically tries to get his screen back.
I'm back. So we're good.
Okay. So the Vince side this week also said that one of their big points this week was that what the public did not see are Grant's text messages in response to Vince's text messages.
Right.
They're not denying that the text messages are real. They're not denying that what everybody saw in the lawsuit is legitimate. Their defense is, well, you're only seeing one side of it, and Janel Grant's were just as dirty and, well, however you want to term it, just as shocking and salacious and nasty as Vince's. And see, here's the thing about that. I believe them, and that doesn't even surprise me. I didn't think for 1 second that these text messages were just one-sided. Of course she was responding. Of course she was talking dirty back. These people were in a sexual relationship for a very long time, and at certain points, she probably felt it was consensual. See, that's the thing. So the fact that, they've got text messages of hers, or they can acquire, well, they don't have the text messages because they claim Vince deleted them.
Vince claims he deleted them.
That means nothing, because if this thing goes to court, you could always get those through the service provider. There's ways to get the text messages. So, but the whole thing is, this is very similar to what the Vince lawyers tried a few weeks ago, in that I don't know. To me, I am not compelled to think any differently about any of this case, just because even if Grant's texts are even more salacious and more dirty than Vince's text, even if she was going back and forth with him and sexting in the same manner, that doesn't mean anything to me. That doesn't mean that what she's claiming happened to her didn't happen. So I don't know.
It's a weird, it's a very weird argument, because of course again, we're not lawyers and we don't deal with this stuff on a daily basis or whatever, but someone can consent to something and then not consent to that same thing later. You know what I mean? Like, at one point,
or they can consent to dirty texting, but not consent to being locked in an office in Titan Towers with John Laurinaitis.
Exactly.
As they allegedly gang rape her.
Right.
So
the gotchas. Yeah, it's a strange gotcha. It's like, oh, see, she said she wanted this sort of stuff, and
you can say you want anything you want, but then in the moment, if you decide you don't want it, that's that.
Right. And that's where the whole difference comes. But yeah, it's just such a weird gotcha that's the way that they're going to go. And that's clearly their playbook. And we've seen it a couple times from them, is that either, we're going to say, oh, she's, not as dumb as she's playing, and she has all, because there was that thing a couple weeks ago where it's like, oh, no, she's not dumb, she has a degree and she's got a law degree and stuff, to kind of fight back on the, hey, I was only given a job because I was a sex slave thing. And then also this other part now where, oh, I'm just letting you know that she, texted me about wanting to be held down and liked rough sex or whatever, and yeah, so see. And it's like, that doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that the other things. It's such a bizarre, but I get why they're doing it. It's a jingling keys to kind of distract people from the larger point that is,
Well, it's distraction, and it's also in part a PR play, and it's also in part a tactic so that Grant says to her, so in hopes that Grant will say to herself, oh, well, I don't want the things I texted to get out there. That will be very embarrassing for me. So maybe we should just go settle this so no one ever has to see all the nasty things that I said to him, because I'll be mortified, and look, both sides play that game. Okay. There's a reason that in the lawsuit, they only presented one side of the text messages. I never assumed that she never texted him back. I never assumed that all of her text messages were, oh, please stop talking this way. I hate this. Of course not. She was probably, I figured she's being dirty right back to him. I mean, these people were in a sexual relationship for a long time. People who are in a relationship, sometimes they fucking text dirty back and forth. They sext, to different degrees. I mean, some of this Vince stuff was completely beyond the pale, to, I think, most people. But maybe it wasn't to Janel Grant when she thought she was in a that's the other thing. She could have thought she was in a consensual relationship for a long time with him, but then at some point became uncomfortable with it. But then, and that's the sort of the crux of the lawsuit, the things that became non-consensual between her and Vince McMahon.
Yeah, the crux of the lawsuit is not that I never wanted to be in a sexual relationship with this man. It's that at one point I was, and then at one point I stopped wanting to be a part of this, and I stopped
something else.
Yeah,
yes.
And it became something altogether. Oh, also I was brought to the towers, and yeah, but it's
all of the details we already talked about.
Right,
I was given a fake job, so basically I could be pimped out in the office, and these are all the claims. These are all the allegations and the claims, and these are things, again, at the end of the day, WWE, Vince McMahon, and John Laurinaitis would all prefer that this gets settled in an arbitration behind closed doors where they can agree to not disclose anything and nobody finds out anything more. And the Grant side continues to insist that they're going to court. They're suing these people. And, but we'll see. There could be posturing on that side as well. But anyway, yeah.
One more thing real quick as well. I did this on a Flagship Plus. I talked about Brad Blum, who stepped down as the COO of WWE a little bit ago. That was earlier this month. So people that didn't know, he was, of course, one of the people that was, part of the hiring process for her as well. So he stepped down, earlier this month, and there was a few other executives that have since stepped down. And I just want to make it clear that Brad Blum was one of the executives that was named in the lawsuit. He was one of the ones that was kind of essentially one of the parts of hiring her, and kind of trying to figure out what role she could play or whatever. But we talked about him earlier this month, that he was, if you read all the things, he seems very, I don't want to say complete. He seemed kind of on the outside of just like, I don't really like what this is going. He very, like Grant mentioned, that he was very, kind of turned his back to her right away. Didn't kind of say anything to her. Did kind of just try to ignore what was going on and try to do his best.
He
to
was
just
the guy
keep
we
his head
talked
down.
about where he was like, I don't want nothing to do with this woman.
Right.
Because I know what the score. I know why she's here, and I really would prefer not even to have to deal with her.
Right.
Because yeah.
And then there was a few other guys that I talked about in Flagship Plus this week that stepped down. I did a Flagship Plus earlier this week. Actually, 2 Flagship Pluses available for you over there at flagshippatreon.com. And I just want to make it clear that none of these guys were involved, at least we know of, in the law. They're not named in the lawsuit, I should say. We don't know. But Michael Levin, I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. He was the vice president of international events and general manager of emerging markets. He had been there for 7 years. He left the company. And Steve Rubin, who had been there for 26 years as senior director of TV event relations. I had a few people say, hey, do these have anything to do with the Janel Grant? I have no idea. I don't think so. And these people aren't named in any other aspects of this lawsuit thus far.
It wouldn't be fair to tie them in since they're not named. But, you also have to look at Drew Gulak is gone or about to be gone. You have to look at Gable Steveson is gone or about to be gone. And you have to look at Kevin Dunn months ago is gone. And you just, this is all speculative, of course, but it seems like, and Blum, who was named in the lawsuit, gone. Didn't one of the other corporate officers in the suit, wasn't he? Isn't he? Or am I confusing that with Blum? Isn't there two of them that are done?
Blum. I think it's just Blum. Yeah, I think the other guys are still, as far as I know, still there.
Yeah, because it was Stephanie, Nikon, and
there was the one other guy. Let me try to get the other guy.
Yeah, I think that guy might be gone too, but I'm not positive. My point here is, and this is speculative, it does seem like they're
Brian Nurse was the other one. He was the head of the legal department.
And he's gone too, right?
Oh, you know what? He was gone a long time ago, right? He was gone even before.
He was the
this.
one that was gone a long time ago. That was my point. So it just seems like is it coincidental that all of these people who have direct connections either to the lawsuit or have direct allegations like Drew Gulak, or have a sketchy past in terms of allegations like Gable Steveson, or people who are super close to Vince, like Kevin Dunn, slowly and systematically, they're ridding themselves of these people and distancing from them because they know that this, lawsuit is hanging over them, and they're just anyone, it's not a good time if you work in that company to have anything come out where you're even loosely associated with any kind of illicit sexual behavior, is my point.
For sure.
And it sure feels like that's why they may be cutting ties with all of these people, all in the past 6 months or so. And again, it's not fair to loop everybody in. I have no idea if some of those other people were just business as usual, moving on, or, and they very well could have been. So it's not fair to just assume that these people had anything to do with it. But some of them are directly named in the lawsuit. Some of them, Drew Gulak just had an accusation from Ronda Rousey. Gable Steveson, that is well documented, what his past is like. And maybe from WWE's point of view, it's like, well, what's the point? Gable Steveson is not progressing like we thought he would as a pro wrestler. He didn't get over. In fact, he got the opposite of over the few times that we tried with him with our fan base. The guy got booed out of the ring. And, oh, by the way, it probably isn't a good idea to have a guy who has an alleged rape hanging over him in the company at the time when we're fighting a lawsuit that of this magnitude. So it seems, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. A little bit too much of a coincidence that they're removing all of these people.
Maybe a little more smoke. Yeah. And it should also be noted too, that they're still in the process of doing a merger with UFC. So there's also a lot of these corporate officers could be, executives or whatever in the company could also be losing jobs because you're in the midst of a merger. And it's like, all right, we don't need two directors of TV events or whatever. We don't need two of you because we got one from USC. We don't need you anymore. You're gone. So it's all this sort of stuff is happening at the same time. But yeah, like you said, there is smoke, obviously, to the fire. So it's like anytime an executive does leave at this point, you do wonder, well, hold on a minute, what's going on here? And that makes a pretty bad, pretty odd workplace that somebody can't leave without it being like, well, hold on a minute, wait, are you involved in this or whatever? But who knows? We don't know if anybody, any of these newer guys, but yeah, we do know that, obviously, Kevin Dunn leaving was definitely suspicious, and Blum and Brian Nurse also leaving, or Nurse left, I think, before Dietz's lawsuit came out, but and we did mix those guys up real quickly.
Yeah.
Blum is mentioned as being well aware of Janel Grant and trying to figure out jobs for her and that sort of stuff. It was the other guy, the lawyer, that was just kind of like, I'm just going to turn my back to this. And yeah, Brian Nurse, who was just kind of like, okay, I'm just going to pretend this isn't happening and try to move on with my life. And then he eventually,
I'm going to have as little contact with this person as I can.
Blum had contact with her because that's who she went to say, hey, should I keep this job? Who should I talk to? Who would I get contact?
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
he was involved. He was kind of with Nick Khan a lot. It was always, if you go back and read the lawsuit, there was a lot of Nick Khan and Brad Bloom. I went to both of them and talked to them at the time. So he was a little bit more involved. Brian Nurse was the one, the head of counsel or the legal counsel or whatever, that was more, just kind of like turned his back to it and just kind of ignored it and pretended it wasn't all happening.
Right.
So there you go. That's it's the latest on that. So more to come, obviously, with the Janel Grant lawsuit. So let's get into some other stuff in the world of wrestling. Let's move on to this AEW story that broke earlier today. AEW announced a residency of sorts-ish, partnership with the city of Arlington, Texas, that will see 6 AEW and ROH shows take place at the Esports Stadium this summer as part of their, quote, Path to All-In tour. Collision and Death Before Dishonor will take place from the Esports Stadium, with more ROH dates to come. That's what the press release said. It just said more ROH dates to come. July 20th, AEW Collision. July 26th, ROH Death Before Dishonor, the pay-per-view. July 27th, AEW Collision. August 1st, AEW Collision. They're going to tape that to air on August 3rd. August 10th, AEW Collision, and August 17th, AEW Collision as well. So essentially, from July 20th to August 17th for a whole month, AEW Collision is going to be a studio show at this Esports Stadium, having a sort of residency of sort in Arlington, Texas. And it appears that Ring of Honor will probably be joining them in some way, shape, or form, including their pay-per-view on July 26th, taking place from that Esports Stadium. So a bit of a, essentially, taking Collision and ROH off the road for a month at least is what we have so far with this Path to All In tour.
I mean, they always run Death Before Dishonor in North Texas, right? So I think that's the one that they always do in that part of the country. But look, the Collision ticket sales have been brutal. You know, we just had Vancouver, which was a really nice house. They did over 7,000, I think, in Vancouver, and the crowd was like super hot too. And that was the same week that Raw only did like 8,000. Did you see that? And we're down big from the last time they were in the market. Raw, actually, that's something to keep an eye on. WWE attendance. Now they have some. If you've been paying attention, some. Now look, I'm not saying they're dropping off the map, but even in some of the cities where they have good advances, like Chicago, in whatever building that is, you would know better than me.
I believe Allstate. I believe Allstate Arena.
I think they have 12,000 tickets out or something, but the resale is a higher percentage than usual, and they're not moving, which is a little bit of a sign. They only did 8,000, last week for Raw. Like Collision was only about 1,000 tickets behind Raw this week, which is crazy to think about. But outside of that one Vancouver Collision, we all know Collision struggles to draw. If you look at the advances for some of the Collisions coming up, they're pathetic. I mean, they're like a little bit over 1,000 in some of these cities. I'm not even sure any of them have touched 2,000 tickets out yet. So it seems to me that without knowing much about this, because the story just broke, it's obviously a cost-cutting measure. It's going to be a unique looking venue. I mean, I'm looking at pictures of the venue. It's an esports arena. So it's going to look a little different than you're used to seeing pro wrestling on TV, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. That can end up being a good thing if it looks unique and good on TV. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My question, though, is, are they going to be able to draw in the same city for, 5 weeks in a row, including a pay-per-view? I mean, that's tricky.
That's very hard. Tough. Yeah. One of them
that's
is also
hard, even when a promotion's hot.
Yeah.
I mean, to draw in the same building every week, we can there's like an old school territory. Now I understand it's going to be, probably this building, I think holds, I'm looking for it, but can't find it. But I read somewhere earlier, 2,500 max.
Yeah, around 2,500. Now I doubt, I would be very dubious if they're going to set that thing up for 2,500 for all
it won't.
These.
It's going to be way less for wrestling because you got to set up a ring and a stage and all this other shit. So, it's not like they have to draw a ton of people. Let's say they set it up for 1,500 people. Okay. You still have to draw 1,500 people for 5 straight weeks in the same fucking city. I mean, so, from that standpoint, I don't know how easy that's going to be. But obviously they just get to park their production there for 5 weeks or whatever it is. And it'll save on cost. I guess we'll find out more about what exactly the business deal is between this building and AEW. But look, with the way that the attendance has been specifically for Collision, you can't kill them for trying something different here.
Oh God, no. And we talked about it. Go back to our episodes when they announced Collision and they announced that they were going on the road. You and I talked about how that's going to be tough, man. It's going to be very tough for them to. I mean, not that Dynamite at that time. At that time, Dynamite was still drawing pretty well ticket wise, still doing okay, but it was softening. It was definitely softening by the time they announced Collision, and it was like, oh man, geez, you're going to add another weekly touring thing that you're going to have to sell tickets to, and people are going to have, it's not this same thing that when Dynamite first started, they had the benefit of it was one time, once a week. And when AEW is coming to your town, you better buy a fucking ticket because, man, who knows the next time they're going to come to your town, and they're here and you get one show and it's like the one opportunity. And obviously there was the newness of AEW at that time, and there was also, the punk factor, and they were just a hotter company at that time too. So it made sense, especially coming out of the pandemic too, where it was like, oh my God, I can finally go to wrestling shows again. And there's AEW, and you're firing on all cylinders, and now they have CM Punk, and now they have Bryan Danielson, and now they have all this. So there was a lot of, hot tickets going out there, but they kind of started to soften a little bit, and then you added Collision, and you and I talked about it on the show at that time. Like, that's going to be tough, man. That's going to really stretch your buying audience thin, and it's going to really stretch your marketing thin, and it's hard to do, man. Even WWE struggled with it for a long time until they finally, were able to kind of get on board, in 1999 or whatever, when it was like, oh, okay, cool. Raw is hot as hell, and we're selling out arena after arena for this, and we're selling out every one of our house shows. Sure, we'll throw SmackDown in there too. And yeah, they were going to sell it out and do well with SmackDown. But it's an admission that they're struggling to sell tickets. I think that's mostly what this is, but it's a good deal, and it's a deal that I think they are smart to take. And I'm very curious, like what the financials, if we ever do get any of the financials of it, and what the agreement is or whatever. But I think it's a worthy move, and it's a worthy risk, and it's not something that I'm so worried about. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's going to look ridiculous. They're doing this thing from the same. I don't mind studio wrestling. Like, I'm fine with studio wrestling. I grew up on studio wrestling. I go back and watch studio wrestling all the time. I have no problem with that. I'd be perfectly fine if the show, do I want every episode of Dynamite in front of, 50 people or, a couple hundred people at a soundstage? No, obviously that would be terrible for Dynamite, but for Collision, for your Rampage, for that sort of thing, Ring of Honor, we've always talked about that as well. I don't really mind that. I think there's actually some benefit to that, but like you said, it's how many times can you get people to come to the show, and how many times are you going to get people on a Saturday night to come to this Esports Stadium in Arlington when you're going to be running week after week after week after week after week with it. I mean, that's really going to test that audience, and it's, especially depending on the setup. If they're going to do 50 to 100 people, sure, you could probably do that, but I'd imagine that they're not doing this in an arena that's got 2,500 people to try to get 100 tickets. Like, they're going to try to sell as many of these as you can, like you said, maybe 1,500 or so, and that might be tough because, hell, you're some of your touring Collisions are struggling to get over 2,000 right now. So it's tough, but I'm very curious how it works out. I'm very curious what it looks like, and it's a smart idea, and I wonder if it becomes something that they try to do more in the future, if they can, is lock in these sort of deals, or they just go to Daly's place for Collision or whatever, because Collision acts more at this point seemingly as more of a content for the Turner networks than it does, and it works better as that as content for the Turner networks than it does as a touring live event show, which it just has not seemed to catch on in a lot of markets as a show that people really seek out and really buy tickets to. And I think we've seen that come with some rare exceptions, like you said, this Vancouver show or whatever, but for the most part, people don't see Collision as a show that they really truly want to buy a ticket for.
I just reject the idea that we're in a boom. I think that wrestling is healthy. New Japan, we've talked about this all year. They are drawing, relatively speaking, for what they are, stunning numbers in America for their shows, particularly in Chicago. Obviously WWE and the lead up to WrestleMania, when The Rock was around and, Roman was still around, we're doing some incredible television numbers, breaking 2 million for Raw and things like that. So, and AEW, whereas their television ratings have kind of hit a certain level and stayed there, even this week going under 700,000 total viewers for Dynamite, which there's no spin there. That's poor, but they were only down 0.01 in the demo, and they were in the same place that they always are in the demo, and they beat all of the other entertainment and news programming. So, and then you look at Raw. I just talked about. You look at WWE, and if you're paying attention to the attendance, there's signs that that's moving in the wrong direction, and not just because it's the post WrestleMania malaise either. Even year over year, you look at the ratings. I mean, Raw last week did 1.6 million, and then Raw this week did 1.589 million, which was the lowest, total viewership they've had since January. Gone are the days where they're doing over 2 million. And okay, yeah, The Rock isn't there, and it's not the lead up to WrestleMania. But again, when you compare a lot of these numbers, even year over year, they're not favorable. Okay. So I reject the idea that we're in a boom. In a boom, everything is up and it's continuing to move up and it's across the board. And that isn't the case really for any of these promotions right now, even though there's a lot of positives. And there's plenty of other negatives too, and some other warning signs in, business from a business. And look, SmackDown's going to be moving the cable. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if people realize what a hit that's going to be on their viewership. That's going to be, there might be some for uninformed people, and that I don't think that covers a lot of the people that listen to this show. Okay, we open up our show this week. We're talking about the Janel Grant lawsuit, and we're talking about in the weeds business of pro wrestling, where a lot of other podcasts are opening up with, should the Yeet Man have beaten Ilya Dragunov?
Right,
okay? And
King of the Ring predictions.
listen,
yeah, King and Queen of the Ring predictions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's not me putting down other shows. Okay, it's not.
Well,
I mean, because we're going to talk about plenty of dumb shit too later. But the point is, I think our listeners have a better finger on the pulse of these things than some other fans. That's all I'm saying. Okay, because some fans don't pay attention to business, and you don't have to pay attention to business. You don't have to give a shit about business. I think our listeners do pay attention to business, though. So my point is, I don't think that our audience is going to be surprised with the drop in the SmackDown audience when they move to cable. But I think a lot of your rank and file Gen Pop wrestling fans are going to be surprised. Right. So it's
for sure. No, certainly. I don't think a lot of people are ready for that, because I think we've kind of, they've gotten used to the Fox numbers and used to, the 2 millions. Like, they just throw out a 2 every single week feels seemingly like 2 million, I mean, that's just easy. That's just easy money for them, that they're going to be up in that 2 million range. They're not going to be in the 2 million range on USA on a Friday, especially now with the news that it does not look like they're going to change dates. And we're going to get to that here in a little bit.
Well, listen, I'll give you a great segue. Okay. The big question for me is, what is NXT going to do on CW? Because its network, like 99% of the country has access to CW, but the caveat there is none of those people fucking watch CW. So that's a real interesting one. It's going to be in more homes by a gigantic degree. But how many people do you know off the top of your head what number on the fucking dial your local CW is?
Oh, I sort of do, just because I'm watching. They have an IndyCar documentary going on right now. They do it during the Indy 500 season called 100 Days to Indy. So I know, but
you get my point here.
But
though.
no, that
no
just
one's
let you
watching
know
CW.
that thing gets like 180,000. I mean, that show, is like it's under 200,000 people that are watching it on the CW. You know what I mean? And of course, WWE is going to do a little bit better, but I mean, NXT is softened as well. That's another thing that a lot of people don't talk about and haven't talked about in a long time too. WWE was very smart, very smart. I wrote about it. We talked about it. How smart was WWE to stack the hell out of NXT and put main roster people on there and put Becky on there and work their ass off to get NXT to a certain level. NXT was died on the fucking vine going against AEW, had to run off to Tuesdays and had to just fire everybody and start new and start with the NXT 2.0 and all that sort of stuff. And they slowly but surely built themselves back up. And then we saw last year them get to this level where they were like, holy shit, they might beat AEW. And in some weeks they did, get really, really close in overall viewers to getting to. And the second they signed that deal, it was like, bam, and they went right back. And now you look at NXT numbers now, and they're not very good. So they're going to lose a big chunk of that too, moving to the CW. Because like you said, you're Gen Pop person that doesn't normally watch the CW. I only know about the CW because there's a certain show that I'm interested in that's on the CW. And most people, 75% of the people that are normally watching NXT have no fucking idea what CW, what their affiliate is, because also CW is an affiliate thing too. So it's like it's not as easy as popping on to TBS, TNT, USA. Like those are networks that CW has very weird affiliation things, and they're on weird networks sometimes, and they might be doing joint stuff with another network. Like I know my CW is going to move to WGN or what. There's like weird stuff going on with the CW as well, and they're undergoing a lot of changes too. So that's another it's another big wrinkle.
I mean, my overall point was just that even though everyone gets the channel because it's over the air and everything else, nobody fucking watches it. So you could look at the charts. I mean, just nobody watches. So I don't know what the fuck. To me, it's a huge mystery what NXT is going to pull. I mean, I would assume they're going to do less viewers, but I don't know.
I'm fairly certain the CW is the smallest broadcast network, in terms of overall numbers, without question, right?
Not even close. Yeah. But yeah. So, and what I was getting to was they announced it's staying on Tuesdays, which is curious because they thought it might move to another day and maybe even back to Wednesday to fuck with AEW.
Yeah, that's
But-
not happening. You know, they announced today when they're doing, because everyone's doing their upfront and everyone's doing their TV thing right now. So the CW announced that and confirmed that NXT is staying on Tuesday nights, which throws another bit of a
I gotta
wrinkle.
step away for a second.
Yeah,
I
no
gotta
problem.
step away real quick.
No problem. And so you got the CW obviously confirming that NXT is going to stay on Tuesday nights, which throws another wrinkle in some things where people were saying, okay, well, hold on a sec. That would not have been a bad time to move SmackDown off of Fridays. If you're USA, move SmackDown off of Fridays, put it back onto Tuesdays, and then you have a night where it stands to do a little bit better. Because right now, you know, SmackDown obviously does well because it's on Fox and it's on broadcast television or whatever, and not network television. But you know, now you're going to move it over to USA. Do you really want Friday nights on USA? It made sense why Fox put it on Friday nights. It made sense why Fox would do that, but USA is not beholden to that Friday night thing. Would it make sense for them to move SmackDown to Tuesday instead? Because that's a day that you can kind of move around with, and with NXT moving, that day could have been opened up. Well, now with this, the CW confirming that NXT is staying on Tuesday nights, it looks like SmackDown is going to stay on Fridays. Maybe they go to, I don't know, they could go to Wednesdays. I guess they can go to Thursdays. We don't know just yet. I don't think that's been 100% confirmed one way or another yet where SmackDown's going, but you assume that everything is going to stay on its on the days. And, you know, Raw is going to stay on Mondays, SmackDown stay on Fridays, and CW, you know, stay, or NXT on the CW stay on Tuesday nights. So we'll see. That's still kind of moving and shaking. And there was a lot of, you know, posturing, a lot of people assuming that, oh my God, Netflix, you know, they're not going to care what night we're on. And there's been WWE executives too. I think Ari Emanuel has constantly said, we don't need to be on Mondays. We'll be on whatever night anybody wants us to be on. Just pay us a shit ton of money, and you can put this thing on whatever fucking night you want. We don't really care. But it does look like everyone's going to kind of, at least for now, it looks like it's probably going to stay stable with Raw on Mondays, SmackDown on Fridays, and NXT on Tuesdays. But we'll see when it's happening there. Joe, are you back, or you need me to keep going here? We'll keep going. All right. Let's move on to the NBA. Potentially moving to NBC. So again, this doesn't have anything to do with wrestling just yet, but stick with us because it's going to have something to do with wrestling here in a minute. So
I'm back.
Okay, you're back. All right. So
Sorry, I apologize.
no, you're good. You're good. Good. So I'm going to move on now to the NBC NBA thing. So Bill Simmons on his podcast this week just flat out said it. Cat out of the bag, whatever. And if he's 100% right, we'll see. But he straight up claims that NBC has outbid TNT for the NBA broadcast rights, and it looks like the NBA will be leaving TNT and Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, this has been followed up by a few other people in the sports media that have said that, yeah, even if that happens, that TNT has a right of first refusal, or they can match, or they could take it to court. So it's not all done just yet. It's not all locked in and 100% that the NBA is leaving TNT and leaving TBS and leaving the Warner networks to go to NBC. But it looks like there's a lot of smoke to that fire, and it looks like it might happen. It's you know, it seems money wise that is going to be the case, that the NBA, if given the opportunity, is going to go to NBC and leave the Warner networks. Now, what does that have to do with AEW? A lot of people then started to kind of think about, okay, well, you know, AEW has still, you know, negotiating their next TV rights deal, and obviously they've, you know, there's an exclusive window with Warner Brothers Discovery, and what happens here and what all that sort of stuff. What do you make of all this, all these moving parts here? NBA possibly going to NBC, leaving Warner Brothers, and where does that leave AEW in this case?
Well, first of all, this is just Bill Simmons. Now, Bill Simmons is connected, and he's got a lot of sources, both in television, in the media world, and the NBA, but this is not official. People need to understand that. Nothing has been announced. There's no deal. Here's the other piece of it. What these sports leagues are doing now are selling their content in a more piecemeal way than ever. You look at the NFL putting games, Christmas games on Netflix, Black Friday games, games on Amazon from Brazil. You know, the NFL is going to air on something like 4 different streaming services this year, on top of all the television networks they're doing business with. You look at Major League Baseball, they just sold their Sunday morning package to the fucking Roku channel. Okay. On top of the fact that they've got games on Apple TV and Peacock, and it's all piecemeal now. So
It's
the NBA,
it's going to be a mess.
it's already a mess. So the NBA isn't going to be any different. Now, what we're talking about here is the primary package. Okay. The current package that Warner Brothers Discovery has, the big package, the expensive package, but That doesn't mean necessarily that WBD is going to be completely out on the NBA. And I don't know if people completely understand that. They can still get a smaller package or a different piece. Okay. The other thing is, if NBC does secure the package, as rumored, Rich, they need to buy the NBA on NBC theme song back from Fox.
Yeah, Fox.
They got to get Round Ball Rock back. They got to get it back.
The way that Fox uses it is the absolute worst as well. They use it for every game, and it's like when they're going to commercial. So you'll be watching like Xavier versus DePaul. So let's say Xavier versus DePaul, and it's like second quarter media timeout. I'm like, fuck off. No, this is not the way Round Ball Rock should be used. This is an abortion. I hate it so much. So yes, they need to get Round Ball Rock.
It wasn't being used at all before that. You should give them credit for bringing it back.
No,
putting it back in people's minds.
No.
I like the Round Ball Rock with the college basketball. Now, if NBC gets the package back, it needs to go back to the NBA.
Yes.
It has to. It's got to go back to the NBA on NBC is Round Ball Rock. That period.
I need Ahmad Rashad. I want Round Ball Rock.
I don't need Ahmad Rashad, but I need
fine.
Round Ball Rock. Bring back Peter Vesey while you're at it.
Hell yeah, I'm down.
Actually, he's still out there.
He is still around.
He's still out there. Yeah. See, you don't know nothing about. See, all you guys know about your Woj bombs and your shams. You know nothing about Peter Vesey.
No,
Peter Vesey
these kids don't know.
He walks so those guys can run. Okay, the original NBA television insider, Peter Vesey, who, by the way, I think he has a newsletter on Patreon. I think that's how he's plying his trade.
There it is, my guy.
Like
yeah,
that.
there you go, Peter.
But all of his sources are like 85 years old at this point. But
right, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know who he's talking to, like Larry Brown or something. But
probably Larry Brown. Yeah, probably Larry Brown and Don Nelson is who he's talking to.
Or Mad Dog NBA go-to man Kevin Lockery is probably
Lockery,
one of his...
yeah. That's my favorite Madball thing, when he brings on like an 89-year-old Kevin Lockery who last coached in 1992. Let's bring him on.
Let me tell you something. Kevin Lockery, shockingly, is right on top of it.
He knows his shit. He knows his shit. But it's so wild because people listening, there are adults listening to that show that were not alive when Kevin Lockery last coached in the NBA. Right. It's like, I'm trying to think of a comp in like 2001. If they brought like not even Red Auerbach, because that even like he's at least like Red Auerbach. I'm trying to figure out like whoever I'm going to mention. No one's going to know who the fuck it is, but I'm trying to figure out some old timey basketball coach that nobody even knows. It's not even.
I'm trying to think of a football coach that's been retired for 30 years. Then I can't even
that they would bring on TV. That wasn't even like that good. That was just like okay, and it's like here we are with like, this guy. It's like, what is this guy?
Lockery. He didn't rack up 6 titles either. I mean, he's. I'm shocked how on top of it he is locked in.
Yeah.
Kevin Lockery, 89 years old or whatever, staying up till 1 a.m. to watch the end of T-Wolves Nuggets.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
locked on top of it.
Locked in. I will say though, he didn't win any NBA titles. He is a 2-time ABA champ.
Well, there you go. Those are rings.
New Jersey Nets, baby. Yeah, or New York Nets. Sorry.
New York Nets. That would have been the New York Nets at that time.
Mm-hmm.
What was my point here? Oh, so if NBC getting the package, that's not locked in. We'll see if they do. Now, let's say this falls the way Simmons says it's going to fall. Okay. I am one of the people that is of the belief that works in Tony Khan's favor. I think Tony Khan would be happy about Warner Brothers Discovery losing the NBA package, because that would be a big hit to them, and Dynamite, and to a lesser extent, Collision and Rampage are such good performers. And listen, don't let people tell you that Dynamite is not a good performer. Don't let people convince you that Dynamite isn't performing well. That's total nonsense. That's buffoonery. That's people parroting other people who don't know what they're talking about or who are grifting or whatever. This show's consistently top 5, usually top 3, and sometimes number 1 on Wednesdays. Okay. This is a winner. This show's a winner, and it's outperformed its contract. And I do believe that AEW, listen, I've never been concerned or nervous about this. I feel like they're going to get an increase and a new deal from Warner Brothers Discovery. I feel they're going to, especially if they lose the NBA, because then it's going to be all hands on deck to retain, because it's going to be a big hit to their viewership, and they're going to want to retain everything else they have. Remember, they're still going to have March Madness.
Well, and
they're still going to have Major League Baseball.
That's
and
one of
the
the doom and gloom
NHL.
things that I saw is people be like, oh, well, if they lose the NBA, they're just going to cut bait and throw in the towel. They can't. They can't throw in the towel. They already have agreements with NASCAR. They have agreements with March Madness. They have agreements with the NHL. They have agreements with Major League Baseball. They can't just. They have to sell
some of these
all
are
those.
Some of these are multi-billion-dollar deals.
Right,
that
right.
People need to Google the March Madness media rights deal.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's a monster fucking deal. There's a reason that you got that commercial incessantly every time you watched AEW with I want to dance with somebody. They played it every commercial because they paid billions of fucking dollars to air those fucking games. But yeah, and look, the counter argument that I see people making is, well, their carriage fees are going to drop without the NBA. Okay. But the thing is, the NBA deal cost them billions of dollars with a B. The AEW deal at best is going to cost them $200 million a year.
Exactly.
Okay. That's nothing comparatively to what. So the difference in the carriage fees to me aren't really going to be a determining factor in the deal that AEW gets. They could still afford AEW even with the lessened carriage fees because look at what they won't be paying out billions to the NBA anymore. So that kind of makes up the difference. And they're going to want to retain a winning property like that does very well for them on Wednesday nights, exceedingly well on Wednesday nights. And, for the time slot it's in, Rampage, that's the other thing. Go look at Rampage's demo numbers compared to that time slot on Friday nights. That's a decent little performer too. And then Collision's up and down. Okay. And I would think that they're going to want to work it. I wouldn't be surprised if not only they get another deal from WBD and get a raise, obviously, but it's an expanded deal as well. It would not stun me at all if they talk Tony Khan into a third hour of Dynamite. For sure. Why would they not want it for the same reasons that USA wanted it?
That's happening. It's if not that third, they'll negotiate something. Maybe it won't literally be a third hour of Dynamite, but it'll be another hour of eight. Of course they're going to do that. Of course they're going to do that, and that's what they've been doing. Want that. What do you think they've been towing the line for the last couple of weeks now? What do you think all this 3-hour block stuff is? It's not,
Yeah,
the
overrun.
A
lot of that's because of the sports.
Yeah, but it's a soft. I think there's a look. I think there's a look that's happening with that too. Of like, okay,
a third hour wouldn't shock me at all because that's advantageous to the network. It's more advantageous to the network than it is to the promotion. The promotion just takes the money because you're going to give it to them. They don't want to do 3 hours. WWE never wanted to do 3 hours. Tony Khan doesn't want to do 3 hours, but they're going to pay you. If they're going to say, hey, look, we want to pay, then you're going to take the money. There's probably going to be streaming tie-ins in the next deal. I'm sure WBD is trying to get a bigger chunk of pay-per-view or maybe just get those events off of pay-per-view and get them for themselves. And there's so many pieces to this. I have never been concerned about them getting another deal. And if things fall apart with WBD, Dynamite is such a strong performer that I there would be other suitors. Now here's where I'm concerned. There aren't a lot of other suitors.
They're not.
Because it appears as though Fox is out on wrestling. Okay. I was always strong on the idea that, hey, Fox can get Dynamite for pennies on the dollar compared to SmackDown and do comparative ratings. Maybe not do as well, but compared to what they're paying, end up coming out ahead. But it looks like Fox is just out on wrestling. Now, would Fox be interested in wrestling on FS1? Maybe. Would FS1 be a step down from the Turner networks? Yes, because I think it's this weird thing similar to the CW where FS1 might even be in more homes.
Oh, FS1 is in so many homes. I remember when they launched it, they really launched FS1 and there was that show. What was that? There was like that morning show. They did like a morning zoo. And there was if people were not around for the FS1 rollout, when that thing got rolled out, it was like it's in this many million homes and it's in this and it's like one of the biggest network. And then all that stuff is true. Everybody gets FS1. Nobody fucking watches FS1.
Nobody watches FS1.
Nobody watches FS1. Even when they try to get you to watch FS1, nobody fucking watches FS1.
So I don't know if it's definitively in more homes than TBS and TNT, but if it's not, it's close. The point is, though, no one's watching it. So you're going to do less viewers on FS1 than you were doing on the TBS and TNT. But my point here is there aren't a lot of suitors outside WBD unless Tony's going to, sell it to a streamer. Now, Netflix is obviously out. WWE always works exclusivity into their deals. You would have to assume that they worked exclusivity into that deal. But at this point, is it a matter of just taking whatever the biggest offer is, or weighing that against, okay, what kind of exposure are we going to have? And then if going on a streamer or going on a lesser network is going to cut into our exposure, that means it's going to cut into our pay-per-view. So then do we just work the pay-per-views into the deal at that point? There's so much to consider. But am I confident? Do I think Dynamite is not going to be on the air or is in danger? No, not the way. There's no way the way it performs that's going to. The most likely outcome is WBD gives them a nice raise, expands the content that they're purchasing from them in exchange for that nice raise, and we have another 3, 4, 5 year extension, whatever it's going to be, and things are status quo. And then AEW becomes solvent in the same way that WWE became solvent 10 years ago or whatever it was when they signed their first mega deal. And then at that point, nothing mattered anymore. And you don't even have to waste your time breaking down the booking because the money's guaranteed and the money's so big that they can't lose. It's impossible to lose money. That's what AEW is staring down. They can sign. That's not a guarantee, but they could get a deal of that magnitude with this next deal from WBD. And I'm fairly confident that that's going to happen because Dynamite is way too strong of a performer. I've never been overly concerned about this. And this is a long-winded way to answer your question. WBD losing the NBA to me strengthens AEW's position.
Absolutely.
Because now every other property that WBD has becomes that much more valuable to them by losing their number one property. And I don't think the cost at that point, even with the loss in carriage fees, to me, you still come out ahead by giving AEW a raise because you're saving billions of dollars on your property budget by allowing the NBA to walk. So that's where I stand on that.
Yeah, for sure. And carriage fees as well I have never been less relevant than they are right now. And people, that carriage fees were the boondoggle, and it was the big important thing with cable and RSNs and all that sort of stuff 10, 15, 20 years ago. But that's a big reason why a lot of stuff is happening. A lot of people are leaving cable and all that sort of stuff is because carriage fees got too expensive and got too much. And now, the new revolution is kind of, getting out of the carriage fee game and going either direct to consumer, streaming, whatever that may be, all the whatever's going on with the streaming wars, which we'll talk about here in a bit, because those I think are done officially this week. I'm declaring streaming wars completely over, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah, Venue. We got Venue. We got this.
Speaking of FS1.
Yeah.
Speaking of FS1. So Fox, ESPN, and who's the third one? It was Fox, Disney, and
wasn't it Max?
Oh, Turner.
Yeah.
Max. WBD. So now they have this new streamer. We knew it was coming, but now it's official. It's called Venue, but without the E, because everything has to be cute. So it's
right.
VENU.
Yes. Yeah, we're a tech
so everyone
company,
thinks it's
no vowels. Please.
Everyone thinks, yeah. We have to cut a letter off or do something wacky. Everyone thinks it's Venu, though. Like
yes.
They have to stress it.
It took me a while. I kept calling it Venu, and then
of course any normal person would.
And then it hit me, and I went, "Oh, Venue! I get it now."
Venue. Yeah.
Right, but it took me way long to figure out it was Venue and not Venu.
So it doesn't matter if you have cable or satellite, obviously, but if you're someone who just is a cord cutter, you can get Fox, Disney, which is ESPN, and WBD Sports all on this app Venue for what's rumored to be $40 a month. Rich, what the fuck are we doing here?
Well, then we have other bundles too, because now, and this is why I'm officially declaring we're done here, because
we win.
Comcast is doing a Peacock, Netflix, Apple Plus bundle. There's the other bundle that came out a couple days ago. I forget what's even in that. We're done. It's going to be just everybody go back to cable. Everybody just go back to cable.
Yeah, you're all going to get your cords back. We won this one. We told you this was going to happen.
So now we're going to bundle all these things. So it's now the marketplace. What's happening now? The wars are over, by the way. The streaming wars are done. So all these places are going to bundle. They're all going to come together. They're basically just going to hike their rates as much as possible, and you're not going to have a choice because there's only going to be one or two. There's going to be 3 bundles out there, and it's like sports.
And you're going to look at the price, and it's going to be, well, I could just get fucking cable again and pay. And it's more reliable, no buffering wheels. I don't have to pay for 19 different things, and we're right back to square one.
Yeah,
because you're buying everything a la carte now. And Rich, we don't have to buy any of this shit. I don't have to buy Venue because I have all those fucking channels already.
Definitely not buying Venue. Yeah,
I don't have to buy anything with Max worked in because I have fucking HBO and I get Max. So it's like it's just going exactly how we said it was going to play out, right? And it's only going because none of these things make any fucking money, so they all throw in the towel and look for somebody to merge with. So, like you're saying, eventually there's going to be 2 or 3 gigantic.
Not eventually. We're there. We're fucking there.
Yeah, we're pretty much there.
We're there. There's the Peacock, Apple TV, Netflix bundle. There's the Disney Plus, Hulu, Max bundle, and then there's Venue bundle. And it's like when you look at it, and I think people have done the work on it, it's like, all right, there's just like Paramount Plus is the only one that's like not in any of these fucking bundles or whatever.
Right.
But I'm sure they'll make a bundle with whatever else. And it's like, all right, now you have 3 bundles. You have a sports bundle, whatever this Disney, Hulu, Max bundle is, and then whatever this Peacock, Apple TV, Netflix bundle is, and then it's like, what are we doing here? It's just we're and what's going to happen is obviously the rates are going to get so high, and then it's just going to be you're not going to be able to be competitive, and they're not going to these what these companies are doing is they're throwing in the towel. It's over. They've been chasing. They're all losing a shit ton of money, like you said. They're all chasing users and oh, you get this month for free and that month for free and this, and it's just they're losing so much money. It's just like, fuck it, fine, just make everybody have to buy this fucking bundle, and maybe we can finally get back to making some money again, like we did when we had cable, which we all destroyed because we wanted to destroy cable.
Well, I think Netflix, by just raising I pay like $25 a month for Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Like I look at my bank statement because it's just on auto pay or whatever, and I'm like, this shit costs like $24.99. Like, when did that happen? Netflix used to be like $7.99.
Of course, yeah.
But,
and it didn't make it, and obviously all these services all had to launch at ridiculously low rates and ridiculously low numbers.
I think that's my point. I think that Netflix is the only one winning, and what they have shown is the price point doesn't matter.
Yeah,
if you have the content. Everyone else is trying $9.99, $10.99, merging with 19 different services, but they're just like, fuck it, we're charging $25 and you're going to fucking pay it. And people do. So, I don't know. I'm happy with DirecTV. I never wavered, Rich. I never fucking wavered. I'm happy with DirecTV and then whatever other ancillary things I need to buy to watch my fucking baseball games, and I'm good. So, but I'll tell you right now, I'm not this fucking Roku shit for the Sunday morning games. That's a bridge too far. I will gladly listen to the audio and the radio feed of the 3 Reds games that are going to be on there.
I think we're getting to a point, and this is going to be, I'm very fascinated the next year, what's going to happen with people and the amount that they're willing to chase these sporting events. I think people looked at football last year and the NFL and said, oh, okay, 23 million people will go to Peacock to watch the Sunday, whatever games they had on Peacock. You know what I mean? Like, that's the NFL, though. You're not the NFL every other sports league. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of these other sport leagues are getting a little too big for their britches, thinking, oh yeah, it'll be fine. We'll have this game on Roku, and this game's on Apple, and this game's on Peacock, and this one's on this, and this one's on that. And it's like, man, you're gonna have people chasing to watch your games. Like, people don't care that much about the national televised MLB game. People don't care that much about nationally televised NBA games. I mean, people look at the NFL and go, oh, great, yeah, people will chase the NFL anywhere. Yeah, that's the fucking NFL. Of course they'll chase the NFL anywhere. You're not so lucky. So I'm very curious how it happens with wrestling, how it happens with the NBA, because the NBA is obviously
the NBA is about to do it.
Absolutely, they're going to have something on Amazon. They're going to have something. The NBA is trying to chop up every little thing. Hey, you want the in-season tournament? You're going to great. You want the Eastern Conference in-season tournament? You can buy that. Oh, you want the Western Conference in-season tournament? You can take that. Oh, you want the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs? Oh, that'll be on. And it's going to be to a point where you're going to need a fucking abacus to figure out what the hell.
Yeah,
I want to watch the fucking.
And your point is right.
Where are the Boston Celtics? Oh, they're on Peacock today. Oh, okay, great. Great. It's like,
and your point is a lot of the casual fans are not going to chase down these games, and that's where you make up these large numbers of total viewership.
Right.
It's not the hardcore fans are going to track it down. They're always going to track it down. But it's the casual fan who's going to throw their hands and say, you know what? I don't know where the fuck the in-season tournament's airing, so fuck it. I'm not bothering.
Right. NASCAR is doing that this year, too. They're having a bunch of races on different streaming platforms and on this and on this. And and it's like, I don't know, man. it's some people like I know my dad he's not going to sign up for Amazon Prime to watch, random NASCAR races. He'll just not watch them.
No, he's gonna take your mother to the mall that Sunday instead,
exactly.
and watch and watch the race next week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't care that much to watch the Coca-Cola 600, and I'm not going to sign up for Amazon Prime to watch the Coca-Cola 600. I'm 74 years old. I'm good. I don't need that shit.
Now, Sean Sidor is going to do what it takes to watch every race.
Of course.
And that's what we're talking about here. The hardcore fan will track this shit down. The more casual fan isn't going to do all that work, except for the NFL. People will find the fucking NFL. They proved that last year, and that's why the NFL expanded it and put their games all over the place this year. I mean, it's a fucking wild goose chase to find these fucking... I don't know if you've looked at the NFL schedule to find these fucking
it
games.
is. Yeah, there's so many logos, and I'm looking at these weeks, and I'm like, what is going on?
There's some Monday nights this year where there's the Monday night football game on ESPN, and there's a second Monday night football game exclusively on ESPN Plus. And it's like you have to exclusive like they've had 2 Monday night football games before, but they put them on ESPN and ABC or whatever. Now they're doing it where one of them is behind a fucking streamer paywall, the other is on the air, and if you want to watch the other one, you have to have ESPN Plus to go track down the other one. But I'll say this about the NFL though: in those instances, the games always air in the home markets over the air.
Right.
So the game I'm talking about is Arizona versus the Chargers. If you live in Phoenix or if you live in LA, you'll get it on your local, whatever, fucking Fox affiliate or whoever normally carries your games. But everyone else, they added the Christmas games on Netflix, and they're just, and the NBA is going to do the same thing. This is why, circling back, it's possible that WBD gets a piece of the NBA, but it's the big contract that everyone's been talking about is the big boy package, the one that Turner currently has that occupies 2 nights a week or whatever, and all the playoff games and everything. Right. So that's what that's what it looks like NBC, and NBC had it for what? They got it after CBS and had it for like 2 decades.
Yeah, had it from early 90s until 2001 to 2003, I think. 2002, 2003, somewhere in that range.
Maybe shorter amount of time. I thought it was like when the late 80s.
Maybe the late 80s. Maybe 89 or something like that. Maybe around 88, 89, somewhere in that range.
I think they had it from the late 80s to the early 2000s.
It just felt like a longer time because they had it during the peak of the NBA. Yeah, and most people listening to this grew up with the NBA and NBC, so it just became commonplace that, or we all think of it as like, whereas like it was on CBS for 40 years before that, but nobody thinks of the NBA on CBS because it was like an afterthought on CBS. It was barely relevant. Other than you had the Magic Bird, a lot of that era was on CBS.
Yeah, the Magic Bird era peaked on CBS.
Correct.
I remember those finals as a small kid.
Dick Stockton.
And I remember, I remember the CBS. Yeah, the CBS game. Yeah, you had to watch those Lakers Celtic games on CBS. And then, the Jordan era is very much the NBC era.
Correct.
Of the NBA. Now, you go back before the 80s when CBS had the NBA, it was such an afterthought that finals games were airing on tape delay.
Mm-hmm.
I know you know that.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of our listeners, that would probably shock them. NBA finals games were airing on tape delay on CBS for years. That was just the norm because that's how low profile the NBA was. When people say that Larry Bird and Magic Johnson saved the NBA, they're not kidding. Like it really did take the NBA out of being what was, I don't want to call it, well, how would you describe it? A niche sport, or it definitely wasn't on the same level as the NFL or Major League Baseball?
Oh God, no. Especially not during the 70s. They had a rough go of it where a lot of players were involved in drug issues and cocaine scandals, and early in the 50s and the 60s, you had betting scandals and stuff. No, it was a complete. I'd say an afterthought. It was a niche sport. It was just kind of like, they play professional basketball too. Yeah,
more of a niche sport than hockey is today. It was below what hockey is.
Oh God, yes. Yeah. Attendance wise, not very good, and
attendance not good.
TV completely irrelevant, pretty much as a TV property.
Completely irrelevant. And then Magic and Bird came, and CBS benefited from that. But then the league exploded, and the rights went up, and NBC got in on it, and That's what most of our listeners probably grew up with. The NBA. A lot of our listeners probably grew up with the NBA on ABC and ESPN, to be honest, because it's been on there so long.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're 25 years old, you probably don't remember the NBA on NBC. You know, you remember you are Kobe Bryant playing on Christmas on ABC.
Correct.
That's what you know. If you're under 30 at this point, you are probably old enough to remember the NBA on NBC.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Especially growing up in Chicago. Yeah. Of course, especially growing up in Chicago. I was locked in on NBA and NBC, but yeah, a lot of people do not. And so it's a monumental deal in terms of what's going to happen in the world of sports.
Right. The NBA on NBC feels right.
It does.
Like that feels like a correction. Like to me, it feels like the NBA belongs on NBC, which for some of our younger listeners are like, what are you crazy? It's been on ESPN my whole life. Yeah, well, you're a fucking kid. The NBA belonons on NBC.
Well, it still will be on ESPN probably as well. It's
oh yeah, they'll get a piece. They're all going to get a piece.
Yeah,
they're all going to get a piece. You know, they both. You know, Turner and ESPN and ABC have a piece now. You know, but yeah, that primary package. You know, watching the NBA on the fucking weekend on a weekend afternoon when you were in that formative era, watching, you know, the Knicks play the Pacers or the fucking Bulls in the finals. That was all. That just, you instantly think of Round Ball Rock and NBC. You just do. Yeah, but anyway, I think it'll be good news for Tony Khan. I'm really not concerned about that.
No, I'm not either. And I think, people that maybe don't study this as much as we do and care about sports TV as much as we do might look at it as a disaster for AEW and, oh my God, TNT is just gonna, but yeah, like the NASCAR, they just signed the NASCAR deal. That thing is going on until 2030 something. Like it's a long deal. They're not going to be able to get out of that. Like you said, the billions with a big B, capital B, billions for the March Madness. The NHL deal, I don't know how long the NHL deal is going to, but that just got signed a couple of years ago, right? Didn't they just start on there last year? Maybe I think they just started on Turner. Maybe 2 years now at this point. NHL on Turner.
Yeah, last season.
Yeah, and they just rebranded. They now have a whole unit called TNT Sports or whatever. So there's
they got a big and they have a big NHL studio show and everything with. You know, yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of sports. They can't just throw in this towel.
No, the idea that they could throw in the towel and just get out of the sports business, that's not possible. They can't. They've already invested way too much money to get out of the sports business. You can't. I mean, they're in there. I mean, they could sell off all the properties if they really want, but that's not how it works. So you're pretty much locked in. So you can either just shrug your shoulders and go, all right. Or for 1/8 of what you're going to pay, 1/10 of 1/15, I don't know what it is, whatever amount, you're going to be able to pay a lot less to get AEW and get decent enough ratings and decent enough, so there's a lot of benefits to them making that deal. So I'm with you. I see that as a positive. I only see it as a positive. I do not see it as, Zaslav and WBD going, oh, well, forget it then. It's over. We're just going to show Star Wars reruns all day. It's like, no, that's not, we're just going to show you young Sheldon and The Accountant and Empire Strikes Back all day. And we're just no, they can't. They've already invested way too much in other sports. So you may as well re-up with a sports property that you have on your books that you can get for far less than billions. I don't think you're going to have to pay billions to retain AEW for the near future. So
our bodies come in different shapes and sizes, so doesn't it make sense that our weight loss plans should too? That's the beauty of Noom. They build a personal plan that factors in dietary restrictions, medical issues, and other personal needs so your plan works for you. Noom doesn't restrict or shame when you want to treat yourself. Their flexible program focuses on progress instead of perfection. You don't have to give up carbs or anything. And with their daily lessons, you can learn something new about your food choices every day. After just a few days of using the app, I learned how to recognize cues for overeating and how to choose the right foods to feel full. Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com. That's Noom.com. And check out Noom's first ever cookbook, The Noom Kitchen, for 100 healthy and delicious recipes to promote better living. Available to buy now wherever books are sold.
So, the NBC bought the rights to the NBA on November 1989 for 4 years, $600 million.
That's a lot of
November
money then.
1989.
At that time, that's a lot of money.
And they re-upped in April of 93, 4 years, $750 million. Not much of a raise. Not much of a raise. But remember, that's only like a year into Jordan's title run.
Well, no. By that point, he had won 91, 92, and 93.
April 93. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. He would have won 3 by then. You're right.
Or on his way to winning 3. 1-2 on his way to winning 3. But on his way to retiring as well.
He was about to win the third one.
Yes.
Because April 28th, 93, the finals would have been in June.
Correct.
So he had 1-2, and he was well into his run. So that's incorrect. 2002 is when the contract went to ABC. NBC offered 4 years, $1.3 billion in the spring of 2002, and the league went with ESPN, ABC, and TNT, 6 years, $4 billion. And obviously it's been on ESPN, ABC, and TNT for the last 22 years. So, as we said, 22 years. I mean, there's a lot of adults who only know of the NBA on its current networks. They don't remember the NBA on NBC. So that's the, and you can see how the rights fees have gone from there. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out. Maybe it'll go back to CBS and air on tape delay.
Right. Yeah, that's those Saturday afternoon NBA Finals games that play them at, at 8 p.m. after 60 minutes or whatever. It's like,
yeah, some of them were in the middle of the night. Some of them were like 10 p.m.
Like the tape delay would be the game happened at 6 p.m. or whatever, but they would tape delay and show it at like 11:30 p.m. I think Magic Johnson,
after the news.
Yeah, I think Magic Johnson's first title win when he came in for Kareem got hurt, as seen on Winning Time or whatever, where Kareem got hurt and he came in at center.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that game aired at like 12:30 a.m. or whatever on CBS or whatever. Just complete if people just cannot fathom how irrelevant the NBA was at that time, and how so many just a couple of years later, we're just a dynamo, and then 10 years later, just the most popular sport.
Yeah, from 75 to 79, they aired the finals games live, and they were always in the afternoon. They air them in the afternoon, and then from 80 to 81, they were aired on tape delay, and before 75, they aired on tape delay, and then the live games resumed in 82. So, yeah, into the early 80s, they were still airing finals games on tape delay. During this era, CBS aired weeknight playoff games from the earlier rounds on tape delay as well at 11:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes.
But the games would air live
after the local news, after the late show, and then, all right, folks, it's time.
Well, because the local news would do bigger numbers.
Of course.
So they weren't going to push. So now here's the thing: if the games were in the Pacific time zone, they would air them live, but everything else would air. But the time slot was 11:30 p.m. whether it was live or tape delay. CBS continued this practice until the mid 80s. So if you wanted to watch NBA playoff games, we talked about this last week. You don't know how spoiled you are. Every NBA playoff game is on TV. On either the Turner channels or ESPN. You just fucking turn it on and watch it.
Watching it right now.
You're an NBA fan.
Literally watching it right now.
Yeah. You're an NBA fan in 1984. If you want to watch the playoffs, you got to wait till 11:30 p.m. on tape delay.
It came already
to watch
happened.
the playoff games.
But like we talked about last week, you don't know what happened. You have no fucking idea. Yeah, it doesn't matter to you really. Unless
you watch the 11 o'clock news before.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
You got to avoid Warner Wolf and 11 o'clock news so they don't give you the score. And then the finals, maybe you'd get those live, but you're watching them at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which honestly is good. Afternoon NBA games.
I'm in. Love it.
Bring that back, okay, on the weekends. Because, again, that's an NBA on NBC thing. Rich, we lived watching those games at fucking, noon, 2:30.
Yeah, like I told you, those 93 finals, the one where I was at the zoo. The reason I was at the zoo is because it was like Sunday at like 2 p.m. and I was at the fucking zoo when Jordan won that title. Yeah, I would, because I can't, going back to the beginning of the show, I'm having trouble staying up for a lot of these games these days. It's tough, man. I'm trying to watch my Mavericks go out through the NBA playoffs, and they're against, the game tipped off a couple days ago at like 9 p.m. Central, and I was like, man, I don't know how long I'm making through to this end of this game. And NBA Finals, man, it's a chore to make it through the whole NBA Finals these days. I'm officially that old guy that's like, I don't know. I hate these games start too late, but they do. They start way too late.
Check this out. The 76 NBA Finals had 3 straight off days between Sunday afternoon's opener and game 2 following Thursday night due to CBS's concern with low ratings for professional basketball. The 75-76 network TV season, as well as the May sweeps, ended on Wednesday, May 26th.
May sweeps. Hey, guys, can we delay the finals because we have sweeps going on?
So that's what they did. So they accordingly, CBS allowed game 1 to be played on Sunday afternoon since the ratings wouldn't count. So since the ratings didn't count, they're like, sure, we'll put it on live. Right. But then game 2, they were like, no, we're not putting game 2 on live because now we're into the May
MASH
sweeps.
Is on. we got a big season finale of MASH that we don't want to.
Your ratings are fucking terrible. So game 2 has to air at 11:30 p.m. because we don't want it to count against us in the May sweeps.
Because Maud's going to be we're showing Maud. It's got a big episode coming up. So
that's how dire it was for the NBA at that time. Where they would, and then you had like these long gaps between games because the network was like, let's wait till the May sweeps start and we'll put you on 11:30 p.m. We don't want this shit to count because, you're going to kill our fucking ratings and thus our ad dollars. That's fucking crazy. You can't even conceptualize that now.
Right, because the only thing keeping cable alive is live sports now. So it's pretty crazy.
And in 78, NBC was airing college basketball games on Saturday afternoons, which CBS wanted to avoid because the college basketball games were kicking the NBA's ass. Yeah. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
So then they moved the NBA games to doubleheaders on Sundays to avoid college basketball on NBC on Saturdays. So it was just a completely different sports landscape. It's just so funny, to look back at that stuff. Oh, I guess we should talk. Do we have anything? Should we do this quick NWA note or?
Yeah. While we're talking TV deals, let's do it. So the NBA, the NWA has a third TV deal. I guess.
Okay, so this was what Billy Corgan's claiming. So here's his quote. I just signed another TV deal, which I haven't announced yet. I saw someone in wrestling media wave off the NWA success, but I don't know a lot of companies out there that have 3 television deals as an independent, solely funded by me, end quote. So there's no details. He's not saying what it is. The other 2 deals he's talking about are obviously NWA Power on the CW app. And what is his reality show called again? I don't remember.
Carniland.
It is called
Carniland,
which is also on the app. The other big news bit to come out of that was he claims that the cocaine spot at the Samhain pay-per-view last October, and the idea that it cost them a television spot on the CW was, he says that's total nonsense. If you remember, House of Wrestling reported that and said the cocaine spot cost them the TV slot and got them pushed to streaming. Here's Corgan's quote. After the cocaine spot where Sinister Minister and his hot minions were snorting sugar off a table in Cleveland.
Did he call them hot minions? Is that the actual
Rich, I'm just reading the quote.
Okay, all right.
I am just reading the quote.
The hot minions.
By the way.
They were that hot. They
weren't hot at all.
They were minions. They were not that hot, though.
They weren't hot at all. I mean, listen.
Well, to Billy, they were, I guess. So,
okay.
Don't king shame Billy.
I listen.
He liked those
herons.
He liked those.
Okay. He liked those concubines.
Yeah, concubines. That's what you called them. Yeah.
So anyway, after the cocaine spot where Sinister Minister and his hot minions were snorting sugar off the table in Cleveland, that story took a life of its own. NWA is going to lose the CW deal. They've lost their CW deal, Corgan said. About 4 days after the event, CW, I don't want to say who, but certainly one of the top people in CW called me and said, what is this all about? And I said, I don't know, because no one from your world has reached out to me. And the guy says, there's no problem over here. We're reading all these articles and we don't understand what the issue is. And I said, okay, so just to be official about it, there's no issue with what we did. And they go, no, we think it's funny. So there's no issue. It was a completely invented story by either a troll inside the company or a leaker or something. end quote. So apparently that whole cocaine deal, according to Corgan, citing an unnamed CW source, didn't really mean anything, and it was all just a fabrication, which, it all lines up with NXT going to the CW, so I think it's far more likely that WWE is what pushed the NWA to the app, or it was just earmarked for the app all along, so who knows? Dave Meltzer, if you recall, that week said that he had an email exchange with Corgan, and Corgan at that time denied that the CW was upset with what happened at the pay-per-view with the cocaine spot. So I don't know. Sounds like that was all bullshit. I tend to believe Corgan here.
I do too. Yeah, I tend to believe him. I tend to believe that maybe there's a few things at play. Like you said, there was always the announcement that they were on the CW, coupled with the WWE going to the CW, coupled with the cocaine spot. So it all kind of came to a head all at once, and it was like, oh, well, what's making what happen, and how does this thing influence the other thing or whatever. My thought is, I think similar to what you have, is that it was always going to be on the app. They just didn't want to tell you that because that sounds a lot less like a cool TV deal. It sounds like a lot less of a good TV deal to say we're on the app. That's kind of the promoter. We see that with Court Bauer and MLW all the time. It's a lot cooler to announce this TV deal that you have and then kind of give the specifics of the TV deal afterwards, and then you come to find out, oh, it's in on a streaming service in Zimbabwe or whatever. That's not that big of a deal. But when they officially announce it, it's like, MLW signs groundbreaking deal to stream in Africa. And you're like, whoa, that's huge. And then it's like, yeah, it's like a streaming service in Zimbabwe and 7 people are going to watch it or whatever. But that's fine. That's kind of how I feel this deal happened. It was like, we're on the CW app, saying the loud part, loud, or saying the CW part loud and then the app part quiet. And it just kind of all came to a head, and it all made people think, oh crap, this is because of this and this because, and I think it was probably always earmarked for the app, or once WWE signed up, then it was very clearly going to go. But I don't know. I don't buy that the CW was going to put the NWA on their actual television either. I always think it was app based.
And it's TV Insider who Corgan told he has a third TV deal with. That's a reputable television site. He's not going to blow smoke up their ass. So we'll see what that means and what it is. I don't know. I could tell you right now that the NWA, just with the old back of the envelope math, Rich, they have to be in a much stronger financial position today than they were prior to the CW deal, because what the power episodes on the CW are just their monthly, what used to be their pay-per-view shows, broken down into 1-hour television episodes. Okay. So what that means is they have completely eliminated their television tapings. Whereas previously they were doing pay-per-views for Fight, or I guess it's not Fight, but it used to be
Triller TV Plus powered by Fight.
Right. But it was Fight when they were there.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So they were doing their pay-per-views for Fight, and then for another day or two, they would be doing tapings. Well, that's all additional costs. You're paying extra days for the venues. You're paying extra, lodging for the talent. You're catering for the talent. You're paying the talent.
He also booked 77 people on every single one of these tapings for some reason.
Well, listen, I'm not going to defend his lack of efficiency, but what I'm saying is, you're eliminating all of those costs because you don't have to run tapings anymore, because you're just breaking up what used to be the pay-per-views into episodes of TV. So right there, you're saving. On the other end, he's not providing this content to CW for free. Okay. They're paying him something. And if the last pay-per-view, it may have been Samhain. It was one of them. Who knows I don't remember what the last one was, but it came out that show did something like 212 buys. Remember that report?
Yeah.
That it did okay. So let's say these NWA pay-per-views were doing 200 buys at $40 a pop. That's $8,000 a show at 6 pay-per-views a year. That's a gross of $48,000 a year. You divide by 2 because Fight gets their cut. They were making about $25,000 a year in pay-per-view revenue. Okay. We can reasonably conclude. You can make your jokes.
That's not paying for the buildings. That's not even paying for the buildings.
You can make your jokes, but the CW is paying them more than $24,000 a year.
Probably, yes.
Okay. Not even probably. They're making some 6-figure sum from the CW. Okay. To be on the CW. They're cleaning up. That's why they eliminated the pay-per-views, because the pay-per-views weren't making shit. And now they're getting whatever guaranteed money they're getting from the CW, which is what got to be well and beyond $25,000 a year. I mean, come on. They have cut down on the amount of shows they have to run because they don't have to do the television tapings anymore. Okay. And I guess the only area where you can argue is YouTube, because Power doesn't go on YouTube anymore. But Rich, as you and I understand, YouTube doesn't pay anything anymore.
No, it's pennies. I mean, they were doing well for a while, but when I say well on YouTube, unless you're one of the tippy top people, you're not. What you count as well is not what what well is on a scale here of YouTube well and what actually people would say.
No one in wrestling is making any money on YouTube.
No, because
okay, let's say an NWA Power did 60,000 viewers, which is about what they were doing. Okay. Rich, we don't push our YouTube at all. We basically use it. Sometimes we'll put clips up. We put all of the podcasts up. We put the clips up, but we don't push it. Right. We just put it out there just in case people find it. And then we want people to subscribe to our podcast feeds.
Right.
We're more concerned.
We want them to discover us and find us and subscribe to the podcast feeds and subscribe to Patreon and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Right. But my point here is sometimes we'll do a video that's a big hit for us and they'll do like 2,000 views, right? That makes us like what, $3?
Yeah, $3 to $10, depending on how long people were watching, how many ads or whatever. But yeah, chump change, just absolute chump change.
So how would you extrapolate that for a video that does 60,000 views? You see what I mean? It's nothing. And here's the thing: it's not as if they shut down. They still have a YouTube and they still put videos up. So they might not be making as much on their YouTube, but that revenue was so small to begin with that the difference they're making up from whatever CW's paying them versus the pittance they were making for their pay-per-views more than makes up for whatever they're losing on YouTube. Because even their top performing videos on YouTube aren't really generating any income. Okay. So, $3 divided by 2. So, we're talking like less than a penny. Here, I'll even do the quick math times 60,000. They're making like $100 per YouTube video,
probably for
Power.
Yeah.
Somewhere in
And,
that
and you
neighborhood.
go, there's estimators out there, and I don't know how close they are, but I popped one up here right now at viewsforyou.com. I don't know how reliable it is. Maybe I'll put the Voice of Wrestling one in there so I can tell. But what they're basically saying, and the way that they kind of do it, is by views per day and CPM and all that sort of stuff. And you can adjust that slider and figure it out or whatever. But essentially what they're saying is for the NWA, they project the yearly earnings for the NWA's YouTube channel right now is $10,000.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Right. Let's see what they say for us and see how close
in
to
the
us.
same ballpark.
Yeah. Let's see what they say. We are loading. Oh, hold on a minute. That's not right. Whatever they said. We're not making that. So you know what? They were overestimating. I will tell you that. They are overestimating what people make.
If anything, they're overestimating.
Because that is not what I make. So I can tell you that.
Yeah, but the point here is it's going to be in the ballpark. My point is they are clearly in a better position now financially with this deal, which is why they killed the pay-per-view. Okay? And here's the other piece of it. Look at their roster. They're not paying anybody. He's got a very cheap roster. I'm not disrespecting any of that talent. There's not a lot of people on this roster with name value. Okay? So his production costs are down. His talent roster is cheaper. He's running less, and he's being paid more. So, I mean, look, people can mock the NWA all they want. I think he's found a way to do much better than he was doing before.
Of course,
with his current structure. Like, less people are paying attention. Well, at least in our bubble, less people are paying. I don't know how many people are watching it on the CW app. But he's, without question, making out better financially. I don't think there's any question about it.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, for sure. I would 100% agree with that too. So, what this next TV deal? Who knows what this is? If this is real TV deal or
who
not.
knows?
But people like to point and laugh at everything the NWA does, and it's like, I don't know. Billy's made some actually pretty decent. Like, it's irrelevant to us now because we're not really watching it, and I know that you're not going to find too many other podcasts out there that are watching and talking about the NWA. We were one of the last ones, but yeah, they're undeniably, in a better position than they were a year ago when they were doing their stuff on Fight, and they may have been, more prominent and more obvious and more seen by like this niche and people that listen to this show, and we were talking about them or whatever, but they're clearly in a better spot now than they were a year ago, running all over the place, doing these tapings, doing these pay-per-views, doing all these sort of things. Definitely a better spot. A different spot now. So let's move on to the world of New Japan here. We have New Japan's Resurgence show. We'll start off with that. We're also talking about Best of the Super Juniors and Dominion, but we'll talk about Resurgence first. This was last weekend at the Toyota Arena in Ontario, California. 3,024, the announced attendance for New Japan Resurgence. Where do you put that attendance in? You consider that a good number, bad number, medium number, in the middle? Where do you go with that 3,024 at the Toyota Arena?
I think it's a pretty good number.
I do too.
I mean, it's not Chicago, and we'll see what they do in Washington, D.C., but we talked about this earlier. I think that, they're doing shockingly good attendance in the United States this year. And it really, I don't know how to explain it. I haven't really figured out why. Maybe it's the rub from constantly being featured on AEW. Maybe it's working in reverse in that sense now. I really don't know. But yeah, it's another pretty good number. And I guess
that's basically a sellout. I'm looking at WrestleTix right now. They set that thing up for 3,034. So, I mean, it's not, the whole building or whatever, but that's everything that they kind of set out for, they got. So they nailed the number and they nailed the amount of capacity that they were supposed to have there. So that's definitely,
yeah. And it was
up.
The same thing in Chicago where we all were like, look at this setup, but then they kept filling it,
Mm-hmm.
So they have a pretty good feel of what they can sell too.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty hot crowd. I mean, the crowd was into the show.
There still remains these production issues that happen with all these American New Japan shows, and I don't know what's happening anymore, and I don't really care at this point. It's just like they kind of look like shit. They kind of sound like shit. I don't know why. We were told that this would be fixed because we would have, the Japanese guys were going to come in and do the production now, so things were going to get better, and it still kind of looks like shit, and it still kind of sounds like shit. So I don't know what it is anymore with that. I just kind of throw my hands up. It doesn't really affect my enjoyment of the shows anymore, but I definitely get how some people are kind of annoyed because it did seem like the crowd was about 10,000 miles away. You heard them. You could tell they were loud, and they did pop at certain points, but they did sound very hollow, and the announcers were too loud, and the video looked kind of, fuzzy at times, but whatever. I at this point, I'm used to it with New Japan in America, so it didn't bother me too much. But overall, what did you think of the show itself? Because I saw some, I didn't watch, I missed some of the undercard matches, so that may have, kind of changed my thoughts on it. But I thought overall it was a pretty good show. I liked the last half, and the business end of the show I thought was all pretty solid and all delivered pretty well for me.
The show was really fucking long. It was, it felt really long. Like it felt like every time I looked at my, little bar at the bottom, there was still 2 hours left. Like I'd look at the bar and there was 2 hours and 20 minutes left. And then I'd watch like 4 matches and I'd look at the bar and there was an hour 50 left. And I'm like, what is time standing still?
No, I just watched a 15-minute match. There's no way.
How is this show always have 2 hours left? But yeah, look, this show was okay. I mean, I didn't love it. I didn't think it was a great show. Yeah, the production is terrible, but I don't get wrapped up in it. But I guess it was a newsworthy show. There's
Certainly.
No doubt about that. There was a lot of angles on the show, a lot of stuff that ended up playing into angles that are going on in AEW. So from that standpoint, it was newsworthy. There was nothing on this show that I would tell people that they have to go out of their way to watch, though. There were a couple nice little matches, but nothing I would call great.
So we'll talk about the main event first and then kind of work our way through the show there. So you had Jon Moxley, Shota Umino in your main event. Jon Moxley defeats Umino 34 minutes, 18 seconds. Obviously, Moxley retains the title. Everybody kind of assumed that Moxley was going to retain the title. But I thought they had a pretty good match. A little long. a little long. Did not need to go 35 minutes. I think they told the story that they needed to tell, and they kind of told in about 15, 20 minutes, and then it kind of felt like it was going and going and going and going and going, and it just never really ended. So that's my one criticism of that match, is I think it just went a little too long. But overall, I think it was a big moment for Umino, who showed he could hang, and I thought Moxley did all he can to make Umino look as good as he could as well. So I really had no complaints with the match, other than the fact that I just thought it was a little too long, and I didn't even watch the whole show, so I can't imagine people that sat there for 5 hours and then had this match, 35 minutes in the main event. It just didn't need to be that long, and I think that's a big problem with a lot of, and it's not just New Japan, but New Japan is one of the worst offenders of it. We just don't need 30. Every match does not need to be 35 minutes. This one could have been very well wrapped up in 15, 20 minutes easily, and told the exact same story that you wanted to tell, and probably tell it just as effective, if not more effective, with the way it was. But Umino is coming into his own. He really is, and he feels, to me, he feels the part now. He really does feel the part of a bona fide main eventer. And I thought
You've
Moxley,
come around on the Umino.
I've come around. I've come around. Yeah, I've come around on him. Yeah, it's still. There's little bits here and there, but he carries himself definitely like a main eventer in a way that he didn't carry himself even a year ago. So I've come around on him for sure.
I thought there were times he looked really good in this match, and there were times where I thought he looked really poor. Like there was a spot where he had Moxley down, and he was delivering elbows to the back of his head, and they just looked really weak, and it kind of took me out of it. But that's just an example of doing things that you're not good at that maybe you should stay away from doing. There were little moments like that. And, it was a nice story of Moxley taking on Shooter, who he took under his wing 5 years ago when he came into the company, and he's giving him the title shot here. I will say this was by far the best match of Moxley's title run so far. I mean, there's no question about that. The Will Hobbs match fell apart because Hobbs got hurt. The Ren Narita match, it was better than that match. So, from that standpoint, it was Moxley's first match during this title run that I would say was worth a shit. And now he moves on to Evil. And, there's a lot of people who think Evil's going to win that. There's a lot of people who think maybe Moxley will face Tetsuya Naito at Forbidden Door. I don't know if that's just speculation or educated speculation. Forbidden Door is on June 30th. What's the date for Dominion?
9th, June 9th. June 9th.
Okay, so he'll have to get through Evil and then defend the title, 20 days later at Forbidden Door. They've never done, they have done IW. They have, that's wrong. They have done IWGP title matches at Forbidden Door. Look, I think Moxley and Naito would be a pretty huge match for Forbidden Door. I hope they do that.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Building is set up for like about a little over 8,000. I think they're going to hit that number with or without that match, but I think that match would definitely put it over the top. You saw how Naito drew in Chicago. So we'll see. He's got to get through Evil, though. I think that most Western New Japan fans are hoping that Moxley beats Evil, obviously. I don't think anyone wants to go back to that.
No.
But from a New Japan standpoint, you could see why they might want to go to Naito chasing Evil, right? It's possible.
Sure.
Evil
absolutely.
Wins.
It's definitely not. It's not 0%. It is not 0%. It's. I don't want to say 50-50, but I think it's probably 60-40 that Moxley retains. I think there's an easily 40% chance that Evil wins for sure.
Look, they don't have much else in terms of main event. We've talked about this a million times. Where else do you turn in that company? So, I guess you freed up Zack Sabre Jr. to be a top guy, right?
I guess.
Tanahashi on this show.
I don't know. I guess. I keep waiting for them to really go there with him, but
well, he doesn't have to. They took the TV title off.
Yeah,
and he beat Tanahashi, which still means a little. So it's going to mean less and less moving forward. That's going to have diminishing returns.
Sure.
But he beat Tanahashi, and he's not bogged down with the TV title. And it seems as though I don't think they're going back in that direction with him. So maybe he gets in the top of the card mix. He's as viable as anyone for that. Shingo defends the Never title at Dominion against Hanare. So, Shingo's kind of occupied with that mid-card title, and it seems like the days of pushing Shingo as a top guy is over. I don't think it should be, especially with the state that they're in, but they don't seem to feel the same way. So, if the story moving forward until Wrestle Kingdom is Naito chasing Evil for the title through the G1 and everything, I find that incredibly plausible. And it could be a direction they go in. I'd much rather have Moxley and Naito at Forbidden Door. I think that'd be a really cool match for Forbidden Door. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. But yeah, don't discount the ability, the chance that Evil does win that. I know it to some people might be like, oh my God, oh dear God, but it's like, don't. I wouldn't be stunned. I would not be stunned. I would still probably bet that Moxley wins, and we do Moxley and Naito at Forbidden Door, but I will definitely not be stunned if Evil defeats him at Dominion. We'll have next match we'll move on to here. New Japan Strong Openweight title, no rope, last man standing match. Gabe Kid versus Eddie Kingston. Gabe Kid defeats Eddie Kingston to win the New Japan Strong Openweight title. Story of this match really comes, I guess, at the end, where Gabe Kid and Eddie are doing a spot where Gabe's going to, suplex him from the ring through a table on the outside. Eddie Kingston bangs his leg against the guardrail, immediately grabs at the leg, immediately looks like, he can't get up. Gabe Kid rolls into the ring, 10 counts over, and Gabe Kid wins. Now, I think Gabe was probably going to win on that spot anyway. It's just a matter of now, I guess we have to wonder, it was, how hurt did Eddie get? How legit is that injury? How much is that selling? How much is story? How much is not? And I kind of like the idea that that is a little ambiguous right now, that we don't know. But it did definitely look like Eddie, he immediately grabbed his leg. They brought people out. He stayed on the outside for a while. And the worst part was he had to at least get up at some point and do the beatdown angle that was going to happen after the match, which was Eddie Kingston in the ring, and then the Young Bucks and Jack Perry came down and attacked him and just kind of building up to the anarchy in the arena and the Young Bucks being heels and all that sort of stuff, and coming back to New Japan Pro Wrestling and being just the biggest mega heels here in California. But before we get to the actual post-match and some of the stuff on that, what did you think of the match itself, and what did you think about the finish? Do you think that was just very, very good selling by Eddie, or do you think he legitimately got hurt? I know it's been reported that he legitimately got hurt, but, it is professional wrestling, so we'll see about that.
I think they were going to do the injury angle anyway with the beatdown, right?
I agree. Yeah, and I think he was going to be out of Anarchy in the arena, and they were going to do the beatdown anyway. Now, did it just so happen that he got very hurt on that spot?
He also got hurt legitimately?
Right.
That's
I don't know.
The question. But at the end of the day, I get the sense it doesn't matter, because I think they were going to replace him with Darby either way. I agree. I think the elite attack was going to be an injury angle, and he was clearly hurt. I mean, it took him forever to get back in the ring, just to lay there and just take those gentle boots that they were putting the boots to him. But it's like, at the end of the day, whether he's hurt or not, I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters in terms of the direction AEW was going. I get the sense it was going to be Darby anyway. Let me ask you this though. Didn't it feel like, because did you watch Collision and Rampage over the weekend?
I did.
Did you see they did the whole bit where Claudio walked out on Danielson, and then he talked about how he can't endorse Danielson in Anarchy in the arena, and he wants no part of it?
Yes.
They did that whole thing. Doesn't it make more sense if you're going to take Kingston out of the match? I thought for sure the story was going to be Danielson then trying to get Claudio to replace Kingston, where he would be like, hey, listen, I know you hate Eddie, but he's out of the match. I know you don't want me in this match, but if you really care that much, you can help me. You can get in the match with me and be in there with, and then they could have done a lot of things off of that. They could have had Claudio going out of his way during the match to keep Danielson safe, maybe at the behest of even winning. They could have done a lot I thought that was the direction they were going to go. I was very surprised when it ended up being Darby, because I was like, oh, this all makes sense now. Now the story's going to be,
he's got no choice. He's got literally no choice. Danielson's going to say, our other guy's out. I need you. I know you don't want to do this, but we need you to do this. You have to wrestle in this match.
Yeah. And they could have had him hem and haw for a couple weeks, but then ultimately decide, yes, I'll help you. So if that's not the case, and it isn't, because they put Darby in the match, I don't know where the fuck they're going with the Claudio thing. Right? So, anyway, I thought that was a little weird. But yeah, as for the match itself, it had its moments. It was fun. I'm kind of over the plunder a lot of the time, but and Gabe Kid kind of grates me in all the wrong ways. I feel like he's close. If he can just dial it down a little, I think they've got something with him. But right now he's just a little too edgy boy for my taste.
I thought he was okay. I didn't. He didn't grate on me as much as he usually does in this match. I liked him in this match, but this was a plunder brawl between him and Eddie Kingston. So it was like the perfect scenario to be Gabe Kid. You know what I mean? To be what he is right now. But I'm with you, and I know a lot of people are like, oh my god, I can't believe you guys don't love. And it's like, people are like, oh, he's trying really hard. And I agree he's trying really hard, but he's trying a little too hard. You know what I mean? A little too much. It's a little too, I'm trying to be edgy pro wrestler. And he might work. He might be able to work that out. He's got all the potential in the world. I think he's going to be great. I do think he has all the potential to be great. I like a lot of what I see in him. And I think that's what's making me maybe a little bit disappointed is it's like, we're almost there. We're like right fucking there. It's just a little... just a little too I'm being an edgelord to be an edgelord thing. And I just needed him to reel that down just a little bit. And then we got something there. Because I do really think I think he's very talented. I really, really do. And I want to really like him. It's just, there's just a few things that kind of annoy me about him. But in this match, though, to kind of circle back, in this match, though, I was not nearly as annoyed because, it played to his strengths. It was a blunder brawl with Eddie Kingston. They could tell each other to go fuck themselves 1,000 times throughout the match as well, which they did. And no, I thought they delivered pretty well. And yeah, the finish was a very definitive finish there. And I'm of the belief that Eddie was supposed to sell that injury. The extent of the sell, I don't know. That's where things get a little weird because, like you said, he was sitting there ringside for a long amount of time, a very long amount of time, and officials kept walking up, and it felt like there was a lot of conversations being had, a lot of people asking questions, and that's probably where it was. Hey, do you still want to do the beatdown, or what can you do? That sort of stuff. Where that's putting on my okay, I kind of know how the sausage is made hat was okay. They're just trying to relay between the Bucks and whoever. Like, okay, look, Eddie's his ankle is hurt, so leave the ankle alone. He can do enough where you can beat him down, but just leave the ankle alone. It felt like a lot of that. Whereas if he was really just kind of selling, it would probably be a couple of minutes, and then he would get in the ring and do it. It was like 5 minutes for him to get into that ring finally and do the beatdown angle. So I'm of the belief that they were going to do the beatdown, that he was going to get replaced no matter what. Just that, along the way he did whatever he did to his leg with that spot, which that looks pretty hellacious. I cannot imagine you do that spot and you go away without any sort of bumps and bruises after that. But no, I thought it was a decent enough match. I'm kind of over the plunder as well, but I thought as far as plunders go, this was on the high end. Elsewhere, I'll just go real quick because we got a lot of other stuff to talk about this week. Shingo Yu Uemura for the Never Openweight title. Shingo retains against Yu Uemura. What'd you think of this one?
A lot of people are down on Uemura. I'm not. I'm still buying his stock. I don't know. I see something in him where he still has a chance to be a star. It's I think sometimes people get impatient with this stuff. It doesn't happen at the snap of a finger. Okay, guys have to find themselves. They have to be in the right position. They have to be in the right program. They have to, things have to come together a certain way. But I see a guy who can be a star. So I'm still buying stock in Uemura. As far as Shingo, he'll take on Hanare at Dominion. I think that has a chance to be a really great match.
Yeah, they've had great matches in the past.
Match in the show.
For sure. They've had great matches in the past. Yeah, I'm really excited about that one.
So looking forward to that. I just feel like with the state the company's in, I think Shingo would be one of my featured guys at this point. I don't think he ever will be. Again, I feel like they're
done. Yeah, they're done with
and unfortunately, he peaked right in smack dab in the middle of the pandemic, which is unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that Will Ospreay, Shingo, and Kota Ibushi's world title pushes all coincided with the pandemic. Because they're three guys who absolutely deserved it.
All right, give us 1 sec here. I am back. Joe had to we disconnected Joe, so he will be back in just a moment here. But yeah, quickly I'll just go through the rest of this New Japan Strong Resurgence show for you guys while we get Joe back on the line. But you have all right, there we go. Hello, are you back, Joe?
But oh, for God's sake, man, I hate when this happens.
Yep, you left, and now you're back. So you talked about the pandemic and how those guys got their push right in the pandemic, and then you got disconnected.
All right, great. I don't know what the hell.
Champion audio right there. I'm sure it was great, so whatever you said, but yeah. The
other thing was the other thing I said was just that I hope Shingo also finally gets to have a prominent spot on a Forbidden Door show as well, because he was in that 6-man tag, and I think didn't have to pull him from the 6-man tag with Sting and Darby and replace him with Hiromu, or was it the other way around? I can't remember. And then the next Forbidden Door, he was in a pre-show match or something like that. So, I hope that this year he gets a prominent spot, and he really should, because again, that New Japan roster isn't very deep. So who else could they give big spots to in prominent roles from that side for Forbidden Door? So hopefully Shingo is one of them.
Well deserved too. I mean, 'cause he's also a guy that you put him in a big spot, give him 15 to 20 minutes with another good wrestler, and he's going to have a fucking kick-ass match. I mean, he's done that for 15 years now, had great, risen to the occasion in big-time singles matches. So, of course, he would do that again at Forbidden Door. But, yeah, it is disappointing that I think Hiromu got pulled. It was supposed to just be I think it was supposed to be an 8-man, and then Hiromu got pulled. And then the other one was, just literally just a pre-show match. Just nothing happened pre-show match. All right, quickly for the rest of the show, because I don't have a ton of thoughts about the rest of it. You had
well, weren't they both? Well, yeah, last year's was a pre-show match, right?
Yes.
And the one the year before with Darby and Sting. No, that wasn't pre-show.
No, that wasn't pre-show. But yeah, it was supposed to be an 8-man.
That was the Bucks.
Yes.
The Bucks and Phantasmo. Now I forget who else was supposed to be in that on that side. But you're right. I think Hiromu's the one that got pulled. I thought Shingo replaced Hiromu. You might be right. It might have been an 8-man.
I think it was supposed to be an 8-man, but I do not remember who the last person that was supposed to be. There was somebody else that was supposed to be in it, but I forget who and what all happened. But yeah, that happened there. But
they should have Will Ospreay defend the international title against Shingo.
Fuck yeah, I'm in.
And just have them go out there and say, go have a 6-star match.
Right. You guys know how to do it. We've seen it before. Do it. Will gets a definitive win. Eventually, maybe not definitive win, but gets the big win, I should say. And yeah, they could have a kick. Yeah, that is perfect. That is exactly what I would do.
And New Japan won't give a fuck if Shingo loses. They don't, so that's what they should do.
We're being told it was supposed to be Hiromu, Shingo, Sting, and Darby versus the Bucks, ELP, and Hikuleo. But Hiromu had a COVID scare, so he didn't leave Japan. So instead it was Shingo, Sting, Darby versus Bucks and ELP.
Oh, good. We got Hikuleo out of there, which
that's ended up being a not necessarily a net positive, but definitely actually probably a net positive. Yeah, Hikuleo's pretty terrible.
Although I got to tell you, I enjoyed him on this show.
Yeah,
we'll get to it, I guess.
Okay, well, yeah. I ebb and flow sometimes. Sometimes I get it, and sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, I like Hikuleo. This was not one of them, but more power to you. New Japan World TV title match. Jeff Cobb defeated Lance Archer. I love Cobb being in the spot as far as the world television champion. His matches I've liked. I think in the time limit stuff, the compressed time limit is great for him, and I'm all in on it. I can't help but again laugh at the fact that this thing was advertised as the young person title, and we get it off of Zack Sabre Jr. and we put it on a 41-year-old Jeff Cobb. But hey, you know what?
That ship has long sailed.
At a certain point, I have to stop bringing that up because it's not going to happen, and it's not the young person title, and it never is going to be the young person title. It's just the way that they find 40-year-olds to put this title on. It absolutely just makes me smile from ear to ear. But yeah, that ship has very long sailed. But Jeff Cobb, very good in the role. I enjoyed this match. Cobb and Archer was solid.
Yeah, it was fine. A lot of this show was fine.
Yeah.
It's man, it's just, I don't need to sit there for 5 hours. I don't know.
No, I'm with you. Shows are too long. Hey, I got to MLW at 5:30 on Saturday. I left that place at 11:30. So let me tell you, I'm well aware of shows going way too long and time being way too long. And speaking of that, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Hiroshi Tanahashi, only 12 minutes, but a match that we've seen 10,000 times. And I think 9,999 of them were probably better matches. I am very much over ever watching these two ever again. And I think I'm kind of over ever watching Hiroshi Tanahashi ever again. I think I'm ready to just say, leave the memories alone. And I don't even want to watch a Hiroshi Tanahashi match anymore. They're rough, man. He is not acclimating to old man status very well.
No, it's over.
It's over too. Like it's not even.
It's over.
It's bad. It's not good.
It's over. Yeah.
He's got to get fat and start dropping guys on their head or something. I don't know what he's got to do, but whatever this is, it ain't it.
No. It's decidedly not it.
No. it's rough.
Not fun to watch. It's actually kind of sad to watch.
It's really sad.
Yeah. And now, I mean, we already talked about it. Now does that.
Still there, Joe? We are having.
Yeah, I said, does Zach move up the card?
Does Zach move up the card? I would hope so. I don't know if New Japan agrees. He should. He doesn't have the title anymore. He beat Tanahashi for whatever that's worth. I feel like, okay, I don't know how much that's worth anymore, and he's done that a bunch of times. He should, but I've been saying that the whole year that Zach should move up. And that's kind of one of my big issues with New Japan booking right now is like, all right, let's go. Move. Like, you lost some guys, and that sucks. And all right, now you're forced to build new guys. You're forced to get the next guy wave up, and they just really haven't done that yet. And we're in May, and it's like, all right, who's moving up? Who's going up? I guess G1 season we'll see it, but it's like we're in May, and like who has moved up the ladder in New Japan Pro Wrestling? Okada left, Ospreay left. Who moved up to fill those spots? Who moved up to fill up that ladder in New Japan yet? At this point in May, it's nobody, right? I mean, it. I don't know. Who would you say?
I mean, Tsuji.
I guess, yeah, sort of.
That's about it, Tsuji.
Yeah. You know, Zach should have been another one of those dudes that moved up, and he hasn't. So we'll see. If this is finally impetus or the G1 is the impetus or whatever. LIJ, Naito, and Yota Tsuji defeated David Finlay and Kenta. This was very good. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on this match. I got nothing.
No, I've got nothing. I thought it was funny that, and we're going to talk about it later with CyberFight announcing their pushing forward with their WWE partnership or whatever. I don't know if you saw it, but a bunch of the lunatic WWE accounts on Twitter were fantasy booking Kenta in matches with WWE stars.
Oh. Thanks to the new partnership of WWE and Noah, right? Pro Wrestling Noah superstar.
Yeah.
Kenta. Yeah.
I think they still think Kenta is with Pro Wrestling Noah. A lot of prominent, lunatic, the accounts. I'm not going to name them.
Yeah.
The lunatic WWE accounts. Fantasy booking Kenta versus CM Punk, for the Go to Sleep battle of the Go to Sleep.
Yeah.
I guess they think it's still 2006 and Kenta's still with Pro Wrestling Noah. I don't.
Or that there's only one Japanese company and they don't. I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to.
Or that all of Japan is just the same thing. Or...
Yeah, is that what we're doing here? Is just like, oh, he's back in Japan, and thus...
I would think that they at least know the difference between New Japan because AEW works with them. You know what I mean? But yeah, they just I don't know.
Let's give them a lot of credit.
Also, they still think Kenta's good, I guess.
Yeah. I do not want to watch. Who would honestly? Can you imagine a CM Punk 2024 versus a Kenta 2024 match? Maybe for the vibes, maybe for vibes alone, that would be.
I would watch it for vibes. I'd watch it for vibes. Do they think Kenta and Kano are the same person?
I don't think they know who Kano is. They don't know who Kano is. They have no idea.
Well, he's always front and center though with the.
They don't know who that is.
Yeah, but he's always front and center with the with like the Abimas WWE stuff. Like, remember they had him out there with the Money in the Bank suitcase doing the commercial.
They still don't know who he is. You're giving these loons a lot of credit. They don't know who Kano is.
I watched Kenta defend the Defy title against the Bounty Hunter. The fuck's that guy's name?
Brian Keith.
Brian Keith. Because Defy puts their shows out live on YouTube. I don't know if you knew that.
I do. I subscribe to them, and I always mean to watch them, and then I just end up not watching them for some reason.
So he defended the day before. He wrestled Brian Keith in Seattle, and they were having a perfectly good match by modern Kenta standards, and then they just got to Kenta it up at the end. You know what I mean?
Damn it! I was gonna ask, is it worth the time, or it's a Kenta match?
No, I mean they were having, they went over 30, but then it was a good match by modern Kenta standards. I haven't seen the Nick Wayne Joey Janela 60-minute Iron Man. I know, I hear you, but Janela once had an awesome match with Nick Wayne. I think it was in Defy, as a matter of fact. So, but it is 60 minutes.
It's Janela's 60 minutes. I don't know.
But Nick Wayne, I mean, he had a great match with Janela. He had a great match with Swerve in Defy. But yeah, I am noticing now too, there was a Danhausen versus Randy Myers match on that show.
Wow.
Jeez.
Wow. Randy Myers versus Danhausen. That is
Marina Shafir versus Vert Vixen. And they only went 6 minutes.
That's fine.
Might be a good thing.
I have no problem with that. Yeah, that's
Marina Shafir fucking sucks.
Not good.
And she never gets better. She's just not.
There was one point, and it wasn't long. It was like one point, like 4 or 5 years ago, where it was like, hold on, maybe, and very quickly it was okay. No, nothing. Not going to get better. Not improving. Doesn't get it.
They're never going to let her talk again after that awful promo.
I forget she's in AEW. I always forget.
You know me. You don't know me. What the hell was that?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that she hasn't had a promo.
Even ironically,
has she had a promo since? She has not had.
No, they're not going to let her talk again. Why would you ever let her talk again?
The problem.
And she does that disgusting gimmick where she rips off her socks and throws them into
socks.
The crowd.
Yeah.
I would vomit if one of those socks touched me. I am so disgusted by that because I am so not a foot guy. I don't like touching my own socks. Disgusting. I think I would sue AEW and Marina Shafir.
If those socks hit you, yeah.
If her disgusting athletic sock even brushed up against my skin. Vile. I once had Tommy Dreamer bleed on me in the ECW arena. That was less gross than the thought of Marina Shafir's fucking socks being hurled my way.
Tommy seems like a clean guy. That seems like the type of if there's somebody to bleed on you in the ECW arena, Tommy's on the high end,
right.
I would say.
At least it wasn't Axel Rotten, right?
There were several guys that could have bled on you in the ECW arena, and I would have definitely
name a bunch of them.
Went to a clinic as quick as possible and said everything you can, whatever test you got to do, all the HEPs. Yeah. I want all the HEPs tested, every A through F.
Every different HEP.
Yeah, yes. A through F. I want them all tested. Whatever you got to, get the whole fucking briefcase out and just one by one test it all. Test every bit of it, because there are several people in ECW that would have been. Anyway, all right, let's get done with this resurgence so we can move on to some other stuff here. New Japan Strong Women's title, Stephanie Vakir versus Alex Windsor. Stephanie Vakir wins the match, retains the New Japan Strong Women's title. Do you have anything on this match? I thought it was fine. Like you said, the theme of the show was fine. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I don't have any strong thoughts. They really liked Vakir, and I didn't feel like she was going to lose this match, which they set up on the Chicago show. But I don't know. It was a little fucking 2 and 3/4 star match. I don't have anything to.
Yeah, it's really not much. And the last 3 matches, I'll just do them all at once here. Guerrillas of Destiny, El Phantasmo and Hikuleo defeat TMDK to win the New Japan Strong Openweight tag team titles. Let's put a pin in that because some important stuff possibly happening at Dominion, some things that we've been talking about for a very long time that needs to happen. West Coast Wrecking Crew, Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs defeat Dirty Work, Fred Rosser and Tom Lawler. And then the House of Torture, Evil, Jack Perry, and Ren Narita defeat Rocky Romero, Tomohiro Ishii, and the DKC. But let's go back to that New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team titles because the Guerrillas of Destiny win that match, win the titles. So Phantasmo and Hikuleo are your New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team champions. Now we have, at Dominion, IWGP Tag Team titles, New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team title, 4-way elimination tornado match. Chase Owens and Kenta, who are your IWGP Tag Team champions, Guerrillas of Destiny, who are your New Japan Strong champions, TMDK, and Bishiman. Joe, are we finally mercifully putting these titles back together and getting rid of this? Is that official? Can I officially dance in the streets? Like is it official? I want it to be official.
They don't need 2 tag team titles in this fucking company. Again, I thought Hikuleo was good on this show. I liked the team. Are they still calling themselves Guerrillas of Destiny, even though the original Guerrillas of Destiny are gone?
Believe they still are. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed them. You know, normally they're just change the channel for me. But you know, I thought Hikuleo looked good. His gear looks like shit. I think he can thrive in WWE.
He's got a terrible look.
I think he could thrive in WWE. I think he's going nowhere in New Japan, and I think he should go to WWE, and I think he could do well there. I do. I think they can do very well with him. And we all know he's going. I mean, it's just, you know, as soon as that contract's up, I mean, he's 7 foot tall, legit.
Yeah.
You know, WWE will take him.
It is so funny to see everybody that's of any South Pacific descent all putting eyeball emojis out there, all the Tonga twins or whatever of WoW are like, hey, we're free if you want to call us. Hikuleo throwing the eyeball emojis, they are all in. Every single one of them is like, hey, if we're just signing people from the South Pacific and throwing them into this thing, count us all the way in, man. Let's go. You know, Bad Luck Fale might get out there and wave his hand around. Like anybody in that region is more than happy to get that call. And be a part of this bloodline story. But it has been funny over the last couple of weeks where everyone's just like, hey, I'm also of this descent. You want to hire me? And yes, they should hire them all. Joe, I think they should hire every single one of them.
So Ishii's facing Cobb at Dominion for the TV title. So 15-minute time limit. So that should be really good too. You know, especially with the time limit, because they're just going to get right down to business. And, you know, it'll be big men slapping meat. So that'll be a lot of fun. But do you want, well, I guess basically we went over what we know for Dominion already, so there's no reason to talk about that. Do you want to quickly do Super Juniors and then wrap up with whatever we got left?
Yeah. Let's catch people up on what's been going on with the Super Juniors. So we are through, like you said, 4 nights so far. So these are the standings as of the 16th. We're recording this obviously on the 16th. We're going live here on the 16th. So A block, Blake Christian has 6 points. Teton has 6. Clark Connors, El Desperado, Kevin Knight, all at 4 points apiece. Hayata 2, Kosei Fujita 2, Yoshinobu Kanemaru 2, and then Bushi and TJP both at 0. So we'll start with the A block, and then we'll work our way through the B block. A block, I have liked a lot of the stuff I saw from them. That Night 2, that is the one that if you are kind of figuring out what should I watch and what do you guys recommend or whatever, I would just say, and I know that not all the matches were great, but most of the matches on Night 2 were fucking phenomenal. So I would say just go to Best of the Super Juniors Night 2, Korakuen Hall, and just click play. It's 10 matches, all Best of the Super Juniors matches, and I thought at least 4 or 5 of those matches were like really, really good. Like really, really good stuff. I love that night. That to me has been by far, because I've watched a lot of the other nights and the last couple of shows have been fine, but not really knocking my socks off. Night 2, go out of your way to watch Night 2. I thought that was a phenomenal wrestling show.
I disagree. I watched Night 2 today, and I saw a lot of people hyping it up. Didn't do nothing for me.
Really?
I thought Despi Fujita was an awesome match in the semi-main event. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was the best match of the show, and I thought it was the best match. Now, okay, I've only seen the first 2 nights. I haven't seen Night 3 or 4.
Well, Night 2 is going to look real good after you see Nights 3 and 4. Let me tell you, those nights were boring as fuck. So,
Yeah, so I'm just saying that for what I've seen, Despy Fujita was the best match I've seen so far.
Yes, it still is.
And
Let me tell you, after nights 3 and night 4, it still is. Yes.
I thought that Dookie and Hiromu was good, but nothing that I think it needs to go out of their way to see. And I got to tell you, the rest of the show and all of night 1, man, I've been struggling with it. I have been struggling with it. I mean, I don't think any of it's been bad. Well, I mean, some of it's been, but I'm struggling to get into it. So, and even night 2, which a lot of people have been hyping, really, other than those top 2 matches, I nothing else really did a thing for me, if I'm being honest. So I'm really struggling with it. I'm going to watch every show. I mean, because it's best of the Super Juniors and we got to stay on top of it. But the first 2 nights haven't been, don't have me excited to jump to it's going to be like, all right, it's going to be work to watch them, basically. I'm not looking forward to jumping back in. Like when we finish this, I'm going to watch the end of this Reds game. They're on the West Coast playing the Dodgers, 3-0, bottom of the 3rd. Ellie's 2 for 2 more stolen bases. That's 28 stolen bases.
Is he going for hundo? You think he's going for a hundo? Can he do that?
He's on pace. It's going to be close. That's
gonna
he's
be
on
tough.
Pace. Yeah. He's got 20. Yeah, he's right on pace because we're a little past the quarter pole and he's got 28. We need a return to that.
We do.
So I would like to see him hit on.
We need that triple digit. We need somebody to get triple digit stolen bases. Considering a couple years ago stolen bases were dead, it'd be very nice to have somebody go get a hundo. That would be great.
Well, if he keeps getting on base, then he's going to get it. I mean, that's really all it comes down to. So, but anyway, I'm going to watch the end of the Reds game and I'm going to watch nights 3 and 4. And you tell me that, and you don't exactly have me hyped up for him. So,
yeah. Well, the problem is we're now in like the other towns. You know what I mean? Like we got out of Tokyo, and now we're in like, the other towns, and it's like, oh boy, yeah. Once you get to these towns and you see the building, and you're like, oh no, like you hit play, and you're like, oh, this is gonna be bad. It's like bright, and there's only like 4 rows of chairs on the outside, and you're like, oh no, this is not gonna go well, is it? And normally it does not go very well. So they're back in Tokyo on the 25th. So that, maybe they'll get the, a little bit more hype there. But yeah.
I'm curious of your criticism of it's bright. Against a bright venue.
Like I'll have to send a screenshot. Like the video starts and it's like this building. It's like a long shot of this gymnasium. And you could tell it's just like all the lights are on and stuff. It's hard to describe. It's just, I will.
How dare you insult the Region Plaza Jotsu in Niigata, Japan?
Exactly. I don't know what that arena looks like, but I know what it looks like.
What is that building? I don't think they've ever run that building.
The Region Plaza. Which one did that? Yeah, let's see which one that was.
Joetsu Night 3. What is that? Joetsu is the town. I've never heard of that. They drew 1,000 fans. And then they ran Takasaki Gunma, the G Messe Gunma. 849 fans. Oh, and we're getting like undercard tags.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that. Do not watch those. Do not watch.
You know what, though? That's good because I'm not going to watch those.
You can get through them quick. Oh, yeah, you can get through it quick. Yeah. All right, go to our little chat. Go to our little chat on Slack. And I sent you a picture of what this building looks like. That's a bright building. That's what I mean. Do you see what I'm talking about? When you click it,
I have received no such picture.
Oh, you have in our little in the huddle, sir.
Oh, in the huddle.
In the huddle. Go to the chat in the huddle.
In the huddle.
I put it in the NoDope chat room too. When I say a bright building, it opens up and it's like the 4 rows of chairs. All the lights are on. The curtains.
That's a nice looking venue.
I mean, it's nice, but it's just too bright, and you're like, this show's gonna suck. You just know the show's gonna suck when that's the first shot you get. And it's like, ding,
the card
ding,
isn't going to be the
and you're like,
right.
This isn't going to go well.
No, I know what you mean. Like that's the kind of venue where the card isn't so hot.
Right. The basketball. You see the basketball hoops up there.
Yeah, I don't like the visible basketball.
This isn't going to go well. This is going to be bad. Yeah.
I don't think those are hoops. Are those hoops?
Those are hoops. Yeah, those are hoops for sure.
I don't think those are hoops.
Those are absolute hoops.
Oh yeah, they might be. They might be hoops.
They're hoops.
Yeah, they might be hoops. You're right.
And you're like, you
Those
know
are-
goddamn well that, Bushi isn't going to have his working boots on at this, wherever this arena is. Kanemaru is in and out in 4 minutes. He ain't hanging around for much longer. It's just, that's what you're going to get with that one. But so that's the A block real quickly. B block, Kushida, Taiji Ishimori have 6. Sho has 4. Ninja Mac has 4. Francesco Akira 2. Robbie Eagles 2. Dookie 2. Hiromu 2. Joe Maloney 2. Dragon Dia 0. So obviously Dragon Dia filling in for Ryusuke Taguchi, who was probably going to lose most of his matches, so Dragon Dia just kind of filling his role. One of the interesting things that a lot of people are theorizing is Kushida maybe was taking more of Yo's wins, or they're just doing a Kushida redemption story. I don't know what they're doing. I mean, I still am of the belief that Hiromu was going to go through. We talked about it. The last night is Hiromu versus Taiji Ishimori. Like, come on. We know that Hiromu was probably winning that match.
We know what's happening.
And moving on. So everyone's kind of getting themselves in a bit of a, excited about Kushida, running up to the top of this block at this point. But it's like, I think when it's all said and done, he's probably going to be, he might be in the mix towards the end, but I would assume that it comes down to Hiromu and Taiji Ishimori at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to. Yeah,
we just know it is. Yeah, just because we can't move on or do anything. It's not like Kushida's anything different either. It's not like, oh, you know what would be different in New Japan if Kushida won Best of the Super Juniors. That's what we're going for right now. That's the type of wins we're looking at with New Japan. It's like, they should change things up a little bit. What if Kushida won the block? It's like, oh, come on. What are we doing here? But hey,
he's working with a little more of an edge.
He's been fine. He's been fine. Your boy Ninja Mac, he's great. He's great in New Japan. He's just great in America. He's just great in Japan. Good. He just needs to stay in Japan forever.
He's fun. That's the word you're looking for.
Yeah, he does the flippies. The fans love it. He loves it. He's very fun. Yeah, he's added a nice bit of juice to this Best of the Super Juniors, because otherwise that B block, there's a lot of your steady hands in there, but not a whole lot of exciting hands for me. But Ninja Mac is making them pretty exciting. So I've liked his output a lot. But that's Best of the Super Juniors. We'll stay up on it. Obviously the finals taking place at Dominion on June 9th.
How about Dragon Dia doing the job duty?
Well, that's what I said. I think he just took Taguchi's role, and they were just like, look, you're just going to lose all your matches. And
what it also, one thing I've noticed too with Dragon Gate, they've been more open to their guys just losing. Yamato always loses abroad. Yamato lost in MLW. He lost in Noah. Dragon Dia looks like he's not going to score many points, if any at all. He'll probably get 2 points over somebody before this thing is said and done. Maybe over Ninja Mac, since he's not one of their own guys or something. But it seems like, and look, when business is down in Japan, that's when shit like that happens. When you don't have leverage, it's like you're more willing to work with other companies and you're more willing to have your guys do jobs. Everything kind of opens up. That's one good thing when business drops in Japan, is everybody is more amenable to working together, and there's less, the politics aren't as nasty because everyone's kind of desperate.
Right. Everyone's just looking for just publicize us. We don't really care. It doesn't matter that Dragon Dia is not getting the wins. It's just like play his music and mention Dragon Gate's Dragon Dia, and he can have a couple of good matches.
For 13 straight nights, you're going to talk about Dragon Gate on a New Japan show.
Right. And hopefully a couple of your fans.
There's value in that to Dragon Gate.
Yeah, hopefully a couple of your fans go and try to watch Dragon Gate. That's all we want. We don't really care if he has 2 points when the end of the tournament comes. It's fine. We just want you to mention Dragon Gate. That's all we're really looking for. So there you go. So that's best.
I know he just had the big match. I know he just had the big match with Despy, so it's easy to. But it also feels like Kosei Fujita has a chance to be kind of like the breakout guy in this tournament. But we'll have to see how he does in his other bigger matches, because it could just be that he had his big match against Despy and now there's not. You know what I mean?
Right. And that match is great, by the way. Go seek that match out for sure. That match was legitimately great and my favorite match of the tournaments thus far. And like you said, it felt like it was like, oh, hey, Fujita's like, they got a guy. Maybe they got a guy here, but maybe it was just that was that moment, and now he's just going to kind of go through the rest of the tournament as just a dude. We'll see.
Maybe Despy will win it. He's never won one.
Has he never won a Best of the Super Juniors?
No, he's never won one.
Okay, so we're going to do Despy versus Hiromu. Yeah, you're probably right.
Look it up. I dare you.
I trust you. But I'll look it up anyway. You want me to look it up?
because you don't trust me.
No, I trust you, but I'll look it up anyway. Let's see. I'm sure you're right.
When would he have won one?
You're right. He won Super Junior Tag League. He never won Best of the Super Juniors. He was in the finals in 2022. He was in the semifinals in 2023. He was in the finals in 2020, and he was in the semifinals in 2021. But yeah, never won it.
As you know, I have a memory like a steel trap. I don't know why you would have doubted me.
All right, well, I look forward to El Desperado versus Hiromu Takahashi in your Best of Super Junior Finals. First time matchup here. Between,
a unique matchup.
Yeah, yes. Despy versus Hiromu. I wonder who's going to come out ahead in that Titanic tilt at Dominion. Let's talk about a Titanic tilt that I loved. All Japan Pro Wrestling's Champion Carnival Final, May 12th from Yokohama. 2,530 people in the building for the Champion Carnival. Kento Miyahara, Jun Saito. Joe, this match fucking rocked.
I agree.
Jun Saito is so good. He is so good. The Saitos, I am where we were with the Saitos a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, to where we are now. I mean, it is credit to All Japan, credit to those guys figuring out, like, they had to kind of break them down to build them back up. Hey, you guys are not going to be the smiley, good guy baby faces that we thought. So you're just going to be fat brawlers, just dirty fat brawlers or whatever. And that we kind of thought, and I think we were on the show even saying like that was an admission that, hey, these guys just maybe they're not it, but that's fine. We have a new role for them. Then they've gotten good as being dirty fat brawlers, especially June a little bit more than Rai. Yeah,
but you know what? How about that Rai match against Yuma Anzai where he beat him with that open palm thrust? That might have been one of the better matches of the tournament. So don't sell the brother short either.
No. But June is like legitimately great. And it's kind of wild that we've gotten here where I kind of thought that all right, just be scummers. We just want you guys to be scummers was an admission that these guys are never going to be what we thought they were. They're just going to be scummers. But what I think it really was go learn how to be that. Just we don't need you as smiley, technically advanced, good baby faces. Just go out there and learn how to brawl and learn how to beat guys up and learn how to drop guys on their heads and open palm thrusts and that sort of stuff. Get good at that because that's going to be what you guys are going to excel at. And now we're here a year later, 2 years later, whatever it may be. And it's like, these guys are great in that role. And what a breath of fresh air that is to have guys like that in All Japan Pro Wrestling again. I mean, it feels like we're hearkening back to the days that we talked about a couple of weeks ago when you had your Joe Dorings and those kind of guys, where All Japan was you had your Kento Miyahara doing the very, solid technical, the main event, big bomb main event style. And then you would have your big bruiser dudes like a Joe Doring or whatever. We're kind of back there now with the Saitos, and I'm all in, man. I love it. I thought this match was phenomenal. Go out of your way to watch this. Kento Miyahara versus Jun Saito, 27 minutes and 15 seconds. I mean, Kento gets the win, but there was multiple points where I watched this completely unspoiled too, which was great. I was like, I don't know, man. Maybe they're going to get wild to do this with Jun. I mean, Kento had me believing that Jun was going to maybe win this match. The fans felt like it at certain points too. I thought, what a performance by Kento and what a performance by Jun Saito. I mean, I can't recommend this match enough. This was just great Champion Carnival final.
Yeah, the Saitos, you said it all. They've really come a long way. I genuinely look forward to watching them now. It really started towards the back end of last year where it was like, okay, they're having interesting tag matches and they work within what they're good at, and they don't try to do anything more. Look, they're not all winners. They had a lot of stinkers in this tournament. I watched pretty much this entire tournament. All I really skipped was Jacket Man. I can't stand him. But, and then when they're in there with the wrong guy, it's going to be ugly. Okay. The best comp I could make is they're similar to Bad Luck Fale before he just completely stopped trying, right? Where when he was in there with the right guy, he could have a good match, maybe not a great match, maybe not a match of the year, but he could have good matches. But if he was in there with the wrong guys, it could be really ugly. And then Fale just stopped caring, stopped trying, gained weight, and now he's just a complete waste of space.
Oh,
when
yeah,
he
yeah.
does show up.
Yeah, but there was that 2015, 2016, 2017 era where if he was in there with Nakamura, if he was in there with an Okada, if he was in there with the Tanahashi or Shibata or whatever like that, he would work his ass off, and those guys would work his ass off, and it was great, like little guy, big guy matches, and he would throw.
Well, he had a bunch of he had really awesome matches with Okada and Tanahashi. As like a roadblock, and it was kind of the deal where he'd be in the G1. And you'd immediately know, okay, these 3 matches are going to be good and these 6 matches are going to stink. Like you just knew, and it would work out that way. And these guys are similar to that. And I feel like if they put on weight, they're going to stink. And as they get older, they're probably not going to age well. It might even be the same curve, except, you can't ever expect anyone to just completely throw in the towel on effort the way that Bad Luck Fale did.
That was like historic. Like, I don't fucking care anymore, and I'm going to show you and show everybody that I don't fucking care anymore.
How little I care.
Yeah.
He just wants to run that training school in New Zealand, which you hear the stories that come out of there, and that's a fucking shit show. And that's that. Now they don't even really book him anymore. They don't even book the guy, which is fine. Nobody wants him booked.
Nobody. Yeah, it's fine. Nobody cares.
But that's what I mean, though, in terms of that's kind of the best comp you can come up with, right? Because they work in a very and they're not very nimble or agile or athletic at all, but they have found a way to perform within their limitations and to their strengths and have compelling matches. And that's all that matters.
Wrestling needs more of guys that work different styles too. And that's something that I really dislike about modern wrestling is it's just become so homogenized, and most people will wrestle a certain way, and most wrestling matches look a certain way, and it's like most guys look away. You know what I mean? Like, and then these guys come up, and like you said, they're not nimble. They're not very athletic. They're big and clunky, but you know what? It fucking works. And they're able to, if you know how to work that style and you know what your limitations are and what you're good at and accentuating those positives and hiding those negatives, there is a spot for anybody in wrestling. There's a spot for any type of person in wrestling. Fat guys, short guys, flippy guys, whatever. There's a spot for everybody in wrestling. And the Saitos are such a breath of fresh air in an industry that is so homogenized. And it's like, look, these guys look like shit, but who cares? It's fine. Like, some guys should look like shit. I want fat guys again. Fat guys in wrestling. It was great when there was fat guys in wrestling. There's no fat guys in wrestling anymore. We talked about Segura a couple weeks ago. Once he's done, there's no Seguras coming up. There's no Yuka Okabayashi's coming up. There's no Daisuke Sakamoto's on the way up.
Just tough motherfuckers.
Yeah, those dudes are
nonsense,
done.
Tough motherfuckers.
Yeah, and that's their style. And Jun Saitos are these like just fucking big, fat, lumbering monsters, and it kind of works. And Kento is so good that he's able to adapt and work around that style of match too. So it's I'm so glad that there are people like the Saitos that are out there wrestling, because it's I just get so sick sometimes of seeing two very athletic, good technical wrestlers going out there. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you just want to see a big ugly dude throw a guy around a little bit. That's what wrestling used to have. A lot of different to borrow a phrase from our boy MJF, a lot of ice cream, a lot of flavors of ice cream, and this is a flavor that I like and I want more of.
Yeah, and between the Saitos and Ren Ayabe and Yuma Anzai, of course, they got this nice crew of young guys who came up together and who they're booking very well. And Ren Ayabe, I mean, he had a whole new look in the Carnival too. So, in Japan, that means something. That means maybe it's time, for a push where they allow you to be more expressive with your look, and you get, so stolen base number 29 for Dela Cruz, and he's probably going to steal third here too. He's got 3 tonight. Yeah, Will Smith, you have no chance. No chance. Go back to Philly. What was I talking about? Oh, All Japan's young guys. Yeah. So, anyway, good Carnival final. And, Miyahara, it's going to be Miyahara and Yuma Anzai now for the title. And that'll be an interesting match. I'm not against putting it back on Kento. I'm a big Kento Miyahara guy. I don't know how you can't be. He just has charisma for days. And if this was just a title reign to establish Yuma Anzai, that's fine. And I would have no problem going back to Kento Miyahara. This show actually drew pretty decent too. 2,500 fans.
Yeah.
So, which is a decent number for them. In that little building they were running there. I did watch the semi-main event, which was Rising Hayato over Kaz Hayashi.
Yeah, I did too.
Which was the right result. He didn't need to lose to Kaz Hayashi.
Oh God, no.
So
no, not Kaz Hayashi at this point in his life too, and he's 50 or just about there or whatever. Yeah, no. This was the right result for sure.
Yeah. There's stolen base number 30. He came off the bag. They might replay that. It looks like he's got 30 though. As everyone gets the Ellie De La Cruz play-by-play. It's exciting, Rich. I can't help it, Rich. It's very
I would
exciting.
love to know what it's like to have exciting baseball players on your baseball team, but I do not know that. So
he got back to the bag. So he's got 4 tonight. That's number 30. He just runs. He gets on base. He just goes.
That's old school, man. I love it.
Every time he gets picked off or gets thrown out, which does happen, right? Because he's not fucking Usain Bolt. Dopey Reds fans on Twitter complain. They say how stupid he is. No baseball instincts. You have to, when you have a guy like this, who's this, you just have to, he always has to have the green light, and you have to live with it if it doesn't work out sometimes. You have to live with it. You can't complain if he gets picked off now and then because his game is aggression. Drives me nuts. If we did a baseball podcast, I would rant about that as much as I rant about these dopey Dynamite is failing people. What the hell was I even talking about? Oh, Rising Hayato. He's another guy who I used to hate his guts. I couldn't stand watching him. And he's found himself. You know, I still don't love the Icky Man gimmick as a rule, but you know, he as a worker, he has really found himself, and I don't think he's like one of the top juniors in the world or anything, but he's another guy who I think is a net plus for the promotion.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I didn't watch the rest of the show, so I don't have anything.
I saw little bits and pieces, nothing that you need to go out of your way to check out. Anzai was in there with Ryuki Honda, and they defeated Cyrus and Davey Boy Smith Jr. Nobody else really worked that hard. It was kind of the tour ender, so it was kind of like, let's just take it easy here. So most people took it easy the rest of the night. Anzai, I can't say enough good things about him as well. Dude carries himself like a champion right now. That's why, like, I'm with you that, like, I'd be okay if Kento beat him and won the title back, but man, I think Anzai's really good right now. And maybe you could just establish that he's like the top guy in the company. I mean, you could do that. You can always go back to, you can always go back to Kenta, but Anzai is like, he just feels like a champion right now. He really does. And I didn't know that he was going to take to it as easily as he is. And he looks like $1 million. He's got the new haircut. He's carrying himself like a champion. He's got his shoulders, he's just got the chest puffed out. The shoulders are up. Like, he just looks like confident and just, he's wrestling confident. And it's pretty unbelievable that they have this much out of it. And this is why when this guy came through those dojos, everybody wanted him. Remember, Yuji Nagata was basically just there to kind of, whatever Yuji was trying to do there. But it was very clear. Everybody knew what this guy was. All Japan told you, this is our guy. And very, sometimes we hear that with guys and it's like, then we put a lot of expectations on these guys and then they don't deliver. And I remember Anzai, he had his like second match and we were on here and I was like, I don't know. He was okay. That's like his second match ever. What am I doing? And now he's 25. Now he's had a couple of years under him and he's fucking great. And it's like, oh yeah, that is why everybody saw him and said, that's our guy. We always talk about Okada. People think Okada came out of nowhere. No, go read what people were saying about that guy. The second he was in those, in the dojos, the second anybody laid eyes on Okada, they said, that guy's that's the dude. That guy right there is our guy. And it was like, it just took a little bit of work to get him there. They did the same thing with Anzai. And yeah, it was kind of funny that, in retrospect, remember watching his first and second matches and being like, I don't know, he's okay. It's like his second match ever. What am I doing? And he's now, how many matches does he have at this point? 132 matches in his career. And he is just, he is the perfect example of how the Japanese system for young wrestlers blows away the American system for young wrestlers. Because how many times we get on here and talk about these young American wrestlers that don't get any reps, don't work, don't get any better, regress, whatever. And it's like, you got to work to get better. And a lot of times you have to work against other good wrestlers to get better, and that's exactly what they did with Yumanzai. And now he's here, and he's as good as anybody in the world right now. So, yeah, All Japan looking pretty good. Did we ever get a horse head reveal?
No,
we don't have a horse head reveal. Okay.
Well, I thought we'd get it on the final night of the Carnival, but we didn't.
And
show,
no confirmation on Nakajima either. What the hell?
Well, that leads into our next topic because, this CyberFight thing, there's a lot of speculation that Nakajima has disappeared because he's going to pop up and, with WWE in some form. I mean, I feel like I don't think how do we even start and attack this topic?
Yeah. So here we go. Okay. CyberFight, obviously subsidiary of Cyber Agent. That's the company that owns Pro Wrestling Noah, DDT, Tokyo Joshi Pro. They have a new president now. Yasuda Okamoto, I believe, is his name. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing any of that. He's replacing Sanshiro Takagi, who was the president, but also still an active wrestler or whatever. So this guy is just a suit. This Okamoto guy is fully the president. He's not an active wrestler. He's not running another one of these companies. He is the new president of CyberFight. So during his press conference, introducing, his introductory press conference, he announced Keiji Muto as Noah's scouting advisor. So Keiji Muto getting himself another gig in Pro Wrestling Noah. Good for him. Great. Can't wait for more Keiji Muto. And then he said one of his target goals as president is to, quote, strengthen the relationship with WWE. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, if you remember when they first announced that WWE was coming to Abima, right? It was Kano that they had make that announcement. And then if you recall, that last WrestleMania weekend, Muto was supposed to be bringing Kaito Kiyomiya to meet with the WWE officials. So this all goes back to at least last year. And then, now we have this story that broke in the last couple of days. So, look, it's these are more than warning signs at this point.
This is a flashing light. This is a flashing light now.
And as we know, historically, we don't have to go through it all again. When these types of things happen, it never benefits the host, and it always benefits WWE every single time. So with the state of how business is, I talked to someone who is involved in the business in Japan today about this. And, the word over there is that CyberFight is just throwing bad money after bad money was the way that they termed it. And, look, we all know the business isn't great right now. So, it's probably very enticing to them that WWE is offering to do business with them. There's also the idea that a lot of people in Japan feel like the WWE show is doing poorly. Maybe not poorly is the wrong word, but not as well as they thought it was going to do. Underperforming is how it was termed to me. So it's when one of the New Japan Sumo Hall shows went up against the WWE PLE, the New Japan show just destroyed it, for example, which you would expect it to win. But, so there's, when you look at all those things and how far back the tentacles of the relationship go, it's very obvious at this point. Not even just it's clear to see that something is brewing. And if you're a fan of any of these CyberFight promotions, it's obviously not good news. It's obviously not good news. It'll start off a certain way. You might get some crossover talent and those sorts of things, but we always know how these things
every single time. And it's so funny to watch it happen again. We've seen this happen multiple times as we've done this show. That they did it with the American Indies. They did it with the European scene. And we always do the same thing, and people are, oh no, it's just one show, or it's just this, and it might be, but be careful. Be Careful. They're not here to help you. They've never been here to help you. And even though, quote unquote, the bad man is gone, it was Triple H and William Regal that helped decimate the European scene. It was Triple H that helped decimate the American indie scene with NXT and the Cruiserweight Classic and 205 Live and all that sort of stuff. It ain't the bad man. It's not Vince McMahon that's the bad man for these sort of things. It is very much the MO of Triple H to do these sort of things as well. So they see a desperate wrestling scene. They see a scene that is very ready for an injection of capital, very willing to take a big bag of money to do whatever you say, and definitely have your antennas up. That's all I'll say. It might not be as easy to do what they did in the American Indies and do what they did in Europe to the Japanese scene, but this feels like the biggest inroad. I mean, you take the Rossi Ogawa stuff. I mean, shit, you had Muto showing up to the Hall of Fame. We talked about that. We had the Rossi Ogawa stuff. A year ago, CyberFight telling you that this stuff was going to happen. The Abima stuff, Kano holding the Money in the Bank. I mean, there's so much smoke to this fire, and now it's a fire. Now how out of control is that fire going to go? Who knows? We don't know how out of control it's going to be just yet, but there's a lot of smoke and there's a lot of fire and there's a lot of reasons to look at this and definitely be very cautious, be very cautiously pessimistic about what the future holds for whatever this relationship is going to be. Because it never, as you said, 0% of the time it benefits anybody but WWE. 0% of the time.
And and there's a lot of speculation that this could be why Nakajima has just completely disappeared. So that, maybe he's part of this, and it was just him killing time with All Japan until, it was time to kickstart this thing. Or we might not hear anything again for another 4 or 5 months.
Yes, it's possible. But
it's very clear that their tentacles are in, and there's something working here. We know how this ends. There's no point even getting worked up about it. We know how it goes. We know how it ends. So I don't know if you're big into Noah or DDT or whatever other promotions are there, Tokyo Joshi Pro, I guess. It's got to be concerning to you. So what else is there to say?
Yeah, it should be. I mean, and if it's not, well, you should be. We're starting to see the same, the people involved. They're saying, no, there's nothing. Nah, it's nothing going on. No, it's fine.
Well, you might get your Kenta CM Punk dream match. Just look at it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Kenta CM Punk.
Kenta CM Punk.
Oh, God. You think half these people could name a DDT wrestler with a gun to their head?
Not a one. Not a one.
They're all excited, though. They're all excited.
Yeah, they couldn't name one DDT wrestler. And you're spotting them Kano. I'm not spotting them Kano.
I'm saying maybe they confused Kano with Kenta.
That's possible. Who else from Noah do you think your insert WWE freakazoid like what, any of them, anyone?
I saw someone talking about how maybe they think Kenta's there because when Nakamura worked that one Noah show versus Muto, Kenta worked the show.
I think you're giving them way too much credit. I think they don't know anything.
They're just shooting blind in the dark.
I think they're just naming Japanese guys.
Man, so
I think they're just naming Japanese guys. I love that you're trying to give them a little bit of credit. Hey, they were watching, what was that? That was a Muto bye-bye, wasn't it? Wasn't it one of the Muto bye-byes?
But one of his fucking bye-byes.
It was like bye-bye 3.
And none of them were actually a bye-bye, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah. He's still coming out. Yeah, they said, our new scouting director. There's great Muto doing the Muto thing.
You know what it is?
It's like, go away. Bye-bye. Please.
He's like a toddler where that's like one of the only words they know. And they bye-bye, bye-bye, but they never really leave. Like, that's what he's like. Because this motherfucker had 6 different bye-byes and he's still here.
That was the New Year's show, right? That was the... Yeah, that was the New Year one. Yeah, was Kenta... Oh, yeah. Right. He teamed with Marufuji.
Yeah.
Right. They didn't watch that show. Are you?
These people far too much credit.
You think they sat down on their fucking Wrestle Universe and went, all right, Nippon Budokan, January 1st, let's go.
I mean, I don't know, big time. It's wrestling.
They don't watch wrestling,
Nakamura.
man. They don't watch wrestling. Sitting down for Let's see this. Ogawa and Eita versus Yohei and KZ. Yeah. Oh, speaking of Eita, I think he's officially Noah now. I think that was an announcement made as well. So
may as well make it official.
Right. I thought it was official, but they made it official. I was like, oh, okay. I thought it was official, but Jordan Smith mentioned in the chat room here. He says an interesting aspect of CyberFight potentially opening up the hen house to WWE Foxes is that Noah DDT and Tokyo Joshi Pro are all part of that United Japan Pro Wrestling arrangement. We always tell you guys, don't worry about any of these stupid United things.
No,
all together, United. It doesn't mean a thing. It's
absolutely nothing.
A couple extra shows on the calendar, and that's it.
Yeah.
No, both ends. Anytime there's a united conglomerate of wrestling companies, whether it's American companies in the 80s to try to fight off Vince McMahon, or it's Japanese companies trying to fight through an economic downturn or a pandemic, it's not going to work. It's not. It lasts a couple of shows and it means absolutely nothing.
No,
it's never meant a thing ever. So,
and whatever WWE's got cooking, it'll probably take them a while to get situated there and infrastructure wise, but so you have to keep it business as usual until I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and I don't know. It's kind of we know how it ends. It's depressing.
Do you want to see how the other half lives a little bit? It's kind of fun. I went to Wrestle Talk to see what they had to say about it. Wrestle Talk, they're one of the classic. Oh my God, there's so many ads on this website. They're one of the classic Tony Khan shocked face video sites.
Yes, of course.
That's out there. Their headline is, quote, major company wants to, quote, strengthen relationship with WWE. Major company. It's true, but yeah, again, I'm not sure how this author of this
nobody there knows what they're talking about.
Nobody knows anything about it. They also got the guy's name wrong. I believe it was Fumi Saito from F4W. I think I maybe I'm misquoting who said it, but somebody thanked Post Wrestling because Post Wrestling was the only one to get the guy's name right because it got translated a bunch of times, and we always talk about this with aggregators, especially with Japanese stuff. That's why you got what was Suwama? And everyone, all the aggregators, Suwa. It was like, that wasn't Suwa. What the hell did they all say Suwama was? We talked about this when the Champion Carnival came out.
Oh, Masua.
Masua. That's right. It was Masua. Yeah. So all the aggregators have Yasuaki Okamoto as the guy's name, and that's not his name. But all the aggregators just copy and paste it from everybody else. So they are one of the other ones that have Yasuaki Akamoto, and that is not his name. So they do not know who this guy is either. Did not follow up. But yeah, there you go. Major company wants to strengthen relationship with WWE. So CyberFight's getting in bed. As Jordan said, opening the hen house to the Foxes. That's exactly what it is. And we know how it's going to happen, how it's going to go. So, all right. I think that's it for us this week, right?
Yeah.
Did we nail it all?
There's nothing on the fucking run sheet.
That's it. Nailed it all ahead of time.
If you want to hang around for the next Ellie at bat, I could.
How far are we? What do we look at? That's got to be a while.
It probably won't be in this half inning, so no.
That's fine. I'll just.
You need 4 straight men to get on base. It's 2 outs.
That's fine. That's probably not happening. So we'll just sign off here. Let's get some plugs out of the way. Flagship, patreon.com. Flagship Plus. There was 2 Flagship Pluses this week. If you want bonus flagships, things that did not make it on this week's Flagship show that we covered this week on Flagship Plus. You did a review of last weekend's AEW Collision and AEW Rampage, 3-hour block. Talked about Tommy Billington. So that was a great episode from you over the weekend. He did it on Mother's Day as well. I believe it came out on Sunday. I came back on Tuesday morning with a discussion of Cash Wheeler and his assault charges getting dropped. SmackDown ratings. I reviewed MLW Azteca Lucha, which I sat through at the Cicero Stadium in lovely Cicero, Illinois. Sat through, so a live, also spoilers of MLW Fury Road, which is coming up this weekend as well. So if you want to get ahead of the game and know what's going to happen on MLW Fury Road, you can listen to that right now. As well, I talked about the departures of the executives and, always got into the Queen and King of the Ring, the semifinals, and my predictions for the semifinals of the Queen and King of the Ring. I can't even get through without laughing about that. But yeah, match of the week this week as well. You did the Billington Bulldogs. Speaking of Tommy Billington, the Billington Bulldogs versus the Bollywood Boys, the match that put Tommy Billington on the map. So a great write-up from you from Dungeon Wrestling in Calgary. That was from a couple years ago, October of 2022. So you discussed a little bit of the background of Dungeon Wrestling as well as the Billington Bulldogs. A new episode of Brett versus Owen coming your way hopefully in the next couple of days, covering May of 1994 of the Bret Hart versus Owen Hart feud, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. Plenty of other stuff from us as well. You get the live flagships, you get instant reaction lives for all the major wrestling shows going on around the world. So that is $5 tier, $10 tier, or we have a $1 tier if you just want to preview what we do, as well as a free tier. Free tier, a couple of times a month, you get free content from us as well. You know when new content is getting posted by us as well. So if you have to downgrade for any reason, you jump onto that free tier, something gets posted by us, and you go, okay, that looks interesting to me. You can very easily jump back on, and you'll know what we're posting. So we always recommend that if you're going to downgrade to that free tier, stay on board, and you'll know when new stuff is coming up and when something that you might want to subscribe to gets posted as well. But $1 tier, $5 tier, $10 tier available for you there at Flagship Patreon.com. VoicesOfWrestling.com as well for previews, reviews, columns. Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network. Make sure you get on there, subscribe to your favorite Voices of Wrestling podcast. And as we like to do now on Thursdays, remind you guys that we are signing off, but the Mike and JD show has just gotten started. I think about 10 minutes or so ago, the Mike and JD show got started also on the Voice of Wrestling YouTube channel. So just close out of this window, go back to YouTube. Go back to the Voice of Wrestling YouTube page, and Mike and JD will be waiting for you there with some more wrestling discussion going on throughout the night as well. So that is it for us. We'll see you guys next week. That is Joe. I'm Rich. Talk to you next time. Take care. Bye.
Hello, do you like New Japan Pro Wrestling? Are you a Shin Nihon freak? If so, check out the Super J-Cast with Joel and Damon on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.
And even if you fucking hate New Japan Pro Wrestling, listen to the Super J-Cast anyway. Not just for our great show reviews, analysis, and pastrami sandwiches, but there's also usually some dick jokes somewhere in the obligatory opening 30 minutes of absolute nonsense we chat about every single week. That's the Super J-Cast for all the best talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, crisps, and pornography.
Say goodbye to your credit card rewards. Greedy corporate mega stores, led by Walmart and Target, are pushing for a law in Congress to take away your hard-earned cash back and travel points to line their pockets. The Durbin-Marshall credit card bill would enact harmful credit card routing mandates that would end credit card rewards as we know it. If you love your credit card rewards, tell your lawmakers, hands off my rewards. Tell them to oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill.